The numbers on the fridge. Marianne Wells sat on the kitchen floor with her back against the cabinet under the sink, one knee bent, one leg stretched out awkwardly in front of her. The house was dark except for the microwave clock and the bright square of her phone screen on the tile. Her blood pressure cuff lay beside her, the gray tube twisted once around itself. The monitor had tipped over when she reached for the counter and missed. Claire's name filled the screen. Marianne held the phone in her right hand and watched it ring. Her thumb hovered over the green button. Not yet. The ringing stopped. For a moment, the kitchen became so quiet she could hear the refrigerator humming, the wall clock ticking above the pantry door, and the thin, dry sound of her own breathing. She drew air in through her nose, slow, careful. 1, 2, 3. The phone lit again. Claire. Marianne closed her eyes. Not yet, she whispered. 3 weeks earlier, Marianne stood in the same kitchen outside Phoenix with a red pen in her hand, correcting her morning blood pressure number on the refrigerator door. At 67, widowed and retired, she had always liked a quiet house. Quiet meant order. Quiet meant she could hear the air conditioner turn on, the dishwasher finish its cycle, the mail truck stop at the curb. Before March, quiet had been comfort. Since the TIA, quiet was no longer enough. She needed numbers. She needed routines. She needed proof that her body had not become something waiting to betray her. The refrigerator door held 6 sheets of lined paper under old vacation magnets. Sedona, Flagstaff, the Grand Canyon, a faded San Diego magnet Claire had bought her years ago when Evan was still small enough to fall asleep in a stroller. Blood pressure, heart rate, sodium, water, sleep, walking. A 7th sheet had been added 2 days ago, after Marianne decided the others were not specific enough. That one was for incidents. She disliked the word symptoms. Symptoms belong to hospitals. Symptoms belong to nurses leaning over beds and asking you to smile, squeeze both hands, follow the finger, say the year, say your name, say where you are. She was home. So they were incidents. She had written 126.76 at first, then crossed it out. That was the second reading, and second readings were almost always lower. The honest number was the first one, 128.76. She rewrote it carefully and read, a wrong number could become a wrong decision. A wrong decision could become the thing no one caught in time. Outside, a car door shut. Marianne capped the pen and looked at the stove clock. 11:03. Claire was 3 minutes late. Not late enough to matter. A light could have held her. A work call could have run over. Evan could have forgotten his backpack, his water bottle, his homework folder, or any of the small objects children seem to shed and need again. 3 minutes was nothing. Still, Marianne noticed. She hated that she noticed. The doorbell rang, even though Claire had a key. Marianne smoothed the front of her pale blue cotton shirt and walked to the door without hurrying. Hurrying raised her heart rate. So did irritation. So did pretending she was not irritated. Through the peephole, her daughter stood on the porch with a plastic container tucked against one hip and a brown grocery bag hanging from her wrist. Claire's sunglasses were pushed up into her hair. Her blouse was office neat, her shoulders tired, and her smile already arranged before Marianne opened the door. That was what Marianne noticed first. Not the soup, not the groceries, the smile being made. She opened the door. "Hi, Mom," Claire said. "Hi, sweetheart." Claire leaned in for a careful hug, the kind people gave when they were afraid of bumping something fragile. Marianne accepted it. The container was warm between them. "I brought soup," Claire said. "Chicken and rice. I made it last night." "You didn't have to do that." "I know." Claire stepped inside as if trying not to look around too quickly. She had been doing that lately. Coming into the house with her concern tucked behind errands, food, folded laundry, little practical things Marianne had not asked for. Marianne closed the door. "It smells good," she said. Because it did, and because there were easier ways to begin than with correction. Claire carried the soup into the kitchen. Marianne followed and saw the grocery bag first. Not just soup then, groceries too. That meant Claire had been thinking about Marianne's refrigerator, thinking about what was in it, or what wasn't. Claire set the container on the counter and glanced around the kitchen. Marianne watched her look. The eyes went first to the cleared counters, then to the pill organizer beside the toaster, then to the blood pressure cuff folded in its case, then, as Marianne knew they would, to the refrigerator. Claire's face barely changed. Hospital billing had trained that into her, maybe. The polite blankness of someone used to speaking calmly in rooms where people were angry, frightened, or about to be charged more than they expected. "You've been keeping track," Claire said. "I told you I was." "I know, I just didn't realize it was..." And Claire stopped. "This organized?" Marianne offered. Claire gave a small laugh. "Sure, organized." Marianne moved to the counter and touched the lid of the soup container. "What's in it?" "Chicken, brown rice, Celery, carrots, onion, a little garlic. How much salt? Claire blinked once. Not much. That's not a number. No, it's not. Claire set the grocery bag down. I used low-sodium broth. What brand? Mom. I'm just asking. I don't remember. The one from Fry's. Blue carton, I think. And did you add salt after? A pinch. How big a pinch? Claire looked at her then. Not angry, not yet. Trying not to be. A normal pinch. Marianne felt the old shape of their conversations trying to form. Claire would become gentle. Marianne would become precise. Claire would mistake precision for fear. Marianne would mistake gentleness for condescension. They would both pretend it was about soup. I appreciate it, Marianne said. You don't have to eat it right now. I didn't say I wouldn't eat it. You're asking like you need to defend yourself from it. Marianne opened the drawer beside the stove and took out the small notepad she kept there. I need to know what I'm putting into my body. I understand that. But Claire did not say the word, but Marianne heard it anyway. She always heard it now. She set the notepad on the counter. I can estimate if you tell me the broth. Mom, it's homemade soup. That doesn't make it automatically safe. Claire's mouth tightened. There. A flicker. Marianne saw it and wished she had not. She hated catching her daughter's impatience before Claire could hide it. She hated knowing she had caused it. Most of all, she hated that everyone seemed to want her to be easier about the thing that had almost killed her. Almost. Mild. Temporary. Those were the words people liked. Dr. Patel had used the calmest version. Transient ischemic attack, TIA. A warning sign, not a catastrophe. Claire had repeated the gentlest version to everyone else. Mini stroke. She's doing well. We were lucky. But there had been nothing mini about waking up with the left side of her mouth feeling wrong. Nothing mild about trying to say Claire's name and hearing a blurred, wet sound come out. Nothing temporary about the memory of lying in a hospital bed while a nurse asked her to smile, then asked again, watching her face as if Marianne were a machine that might fail the second test. Marianne set the notepad down. I'll put it in the fridge, she said. Claire rubbed at her forehead with two fingers. Okay. It was kind of you. I know you mean that. Claire's voice stayed level. But you say it like you're returning a package. Marianne opened the refrigerator. Inside, everything sat in labeled containers. Egg whites, steamed zucchini, plain chicken breast, 3 ounces each, oatmeal portions, unsalted broth. Blueberries measured into half-cup servings. A small digital thermometer sat on the middle shelf because the refrigerator had been running 1 degree warmer last week. Claire saw it. Marianne knew from the silence. What is that? Claire asked. A thermometer. In the fridge? That's where refrigerator thermometers go. Is the fridge broken? No. Then why? Because I like to know. Claire nodded slowly. I'm right. Marianne placed the soup on the bottom shelf, not because it belonged there, but because she did not yet know how to categorize it. Homemade food from another kitchen was difficult. Claire's kitchen was clean, but Claire had a child, and children opened doors, touched things, rushed. Evan was sweet, but he was 10. 10-year-old boys did not think about cross-contamination or sodium, or whether laughter raised someone's heart rate more than walking. At the thought of Evan, Marianne's eyes moved to the 7th sheet on the refrigerator. Too late. Claire followed her gaze. Marianne had meant to move that page before Claire came. Or rewrite it. Or call it something else. Incidents had seemed practical when she wrote it. Now, with Claire standing there, it looked dramatic. Claire stepped closer. Mom, it's just notes. Claire read silently. Marianne knew the lines without looking. Lightheaded after bending to unload dishwasher. Skipped walk, heat advisory. Left hand tingled after nap, resolved 4 minutes. Evan visit. Laughed too hard during card game. Heart rate 100, recovered 11 minutes. Dream about hospital, woke 3:12 a.m., BP elevated. Claire's hand lifted toward the paper, then stopped before touching it. Laughed too hard with Evan, she asked. Marianne reached for the kettle, though she did not want tea. It was just a notation. You wrote it down like it was a problem. My heart rate went over 100. You were laughing? It can still raise heart rate. Mom. Marianne filled the kettle at the sink. The water hit the metal bottom too loudly, so she turned the faucet lower. What? She asked. Claire did not answer right away. What happened when you laughed? I told you. No, you told me the number. What happened? Marianne shut off the faucet. Nothing happened. Then why write it down? So I can see patterns. Patterns of what? Marianne set the kettle on the stove and turned the burner on. You keep asking like there's something wrong with being careful. There's careful, and then there's... Claire looked at the refrigerator again. This. Marianne let go of the kettle handle. This is what Dr. Patel said to do. Monitor. Eat better, x-ray, reduce stress. He did not tell you to track laughing with your grandson. He told me to pay attention to triggers. Was Evan a trigger? The question struck harder than Claire meant it to. Marianne saw the regret pass over her daughter's face almost immediately. Claire had not meant to say it that way. Still, she had said it. Marianne opened the cabinet and took down a mug. Not her old yellow one with the chipped handle. That one held too much coffee, and coffee was still undecided. She used the white 6-ounce mug now. Evan is not a trigger, she said. Then don't write him down like one. The burner clicked beneath the kettle. Marianne placed a peppermint tea bag in the mug. No caffeine, no sugar, no risk except possible reflux, according to one article she had read and then tried to forget. Claire sighed. I'm sorry, that came out wrong. It's fine. It's not fine. Claire picked at the folded edge of the grocery bag. He asked about the weekend. Marianne kept her back to her. What weekend? Mom, I don't know which weekend you mean. Flagstaff. The kettle had not boiled. It had barely warmed. Marianne turned the knob down one notch, then back up, correcting herself. I told you I wasn't sure that was a good idea. You told me you wanted to think about it. I did think about it. And you decided no. Yes. Claire was quiet for a second. Were you going to tell him? I assumed you would. He's been talking about it for 2 weeks. I know. He made a list. Marianne closed her eyes briefly. She knew about the list. Evan had called last Sunday and read part of it to her. A sweatshirt, even if Phoenix was hot, because Grandma said Flagstaff got chilly. A deck of cards. The little binoculars Claire had bought him, even though they were only going for one night. A notebook to write down birds, though none of them knew anything about birds. Marianne had listened and smiled into the phone and felt her pulse climb. Hotel pillows, restaurant food, elevation, long drive, rest stops. Claire distracted by gas stations and traffic. Evan wanting snacks. Medication at exact times. What if she woke up in a hotel room and her face felt wrong again? What if Claire was asleep? What if Evan saw? I don't think travel is smart right now, Marianne said. It's 2 hours. It's elevation, it's restaurant food, it's a change in routine. It's also one night with your grandson. I'm aware of that. Claire's voice lowered. Are you? Marianne turned then. Claire stood by the refrigerator, the grocery bag forgotten at her feet. She looked tired now, not only from work or motherhood, but from trying to speak gently to someone who heard gentleness as pressure. For a second, Marianne almost softened. Almost. Then Claire's eyes flicked again to the paper on the refrigerator, to the line about Evan, and Marianne felt the old tightening inside her. The one that came when someone found a private thing and decided they understood it better than she did. I'm trying to stay alive, Marianne said. Claire looked at her for a long moment. I know. No, I don't think you do. I know you're scared. There it was. The word. Scared. People used it when they wanted to make you smaller. They said it softly, kindly, and suddenly your decisions were not decisions anymore. They were symptoms. Marianne lifted her chin. I'm not scared. I'm being responsible. Okay. Don't say okay like that. Like what? Like you're agreeing with a child. Claire's face changed. I'm not. You are. I'm trying very hard not to fight with you. I didn't ask for a fight. No. Claire looked at the soup container, then back at her. You asked how much salt was in a pinch. The kettle began to whistle, thin and sharp. Marianne turned it off too quickly, and a small burst of steam touched her wrist. Not enough to burn, enough to sting. She did not react. Reacting would make Claire move toward her. Claire moved anyway. You okay? Yes. Let me see. I said I'm fine. Claire stopped halfway across the kitchen. The space between them filled with everything both of them knew how not to say. You weren't fine in March. You weren't there when it started. I came as fast as I could. I know. You scared me. I scared myself. Marianne poured water into the mug. Her hand was steady. She was grateful for that. Then angry that she was grateful. Claire bent and began unpacking the grocery bag, one item at a time, too casually. Greek yogurt, unsalted almonds, whole wheat bread, bananas, a rotisserie chicken in a plastic dome. Marianne stared at the chicken. Claire caught the look. I thought you could use it for lunches. Those are full of sodium. I got the plain one. Plain doesn't mean no sodium. You can take the skin off. That's not the same. Claire let the chicken sit there between them, warm under its clear lid, smelling of garlic and grocery store heat. I can take it home, Claire said. That would be best. A laugh escaped Claire, not a real one. Small, tired, gone almost immediately. Marianne stirred her tea, though she had not added anything to it. Claire put the yogurt in the refrigerator. She paused before closing the door, reading again despite herself. Marianne wanted to tell her to stop looking. She wanted to tear the sheets down herself. She wanted Claire to say, "You're doing great, Mom," and mean it. She wanted Claire to understand that if the papers looked excessive, it was because the alternative was lying awake at 2 a.m., listening for weakness in her own breathing. Claire closed the refrigerator. "Mom," she said. This time there was no irritation in it. That made Marianne more wary, not less. "This isn't recovery." The words sat in the clean kitchen. Marianne looked at her daughter. Claire's eyes were bright but not wet. She had always hated crying in arguments. Even as a teenager, she got sharper instead. Marianne held the mug with both hands. For 1 second, she nearly told the truth. Not the whole truth. Just a piece. That some mornings she woke and waited before moving, testing her body like a stranger's car. That she did not trust her left hand in the first hour after sleep. That every plan now had a second plan behind it, and behind that, a hospital room. That she had not canceled Flagstaff because she did not love Evan enough, but because she loved him too much to let him remember her collapsing beside a hotel bed. But Claire was looking at her, as if waiting for permission to step closer. And Marianne knew that if she gave 1 inch of fear, Claire would build a whole case out of it. So she turned toward the refrigerator. The numbers were still there. Black ink, red corrections, straight columns. Not perfect, but visible. Understandable. Things that could be watched. "No," Marianne said. Claire did not move. Marianne lifted the red pen from the tray on top of the refrigerator and drew a clean line under the morning blood pressure entry. "This is why I'm still alive." The canceled trip. Evan had left his backpack in the middle of the kitchen floor again. Claire saw it as soon as she came in from the garage, one hand full of mail, the other still holding her phone. The backpack lay on its side near the island, half unzipped, a folder corner sticking out like a bent wing. One sneaker sat beside it. The other was under the breakfast table. "Evan," she called. No answer. The house smelled faintly of pencil shavings, dish soap, and the frozen waffles he had made for himself that morning because she had been on the phone with a patient account before school. The afternoon light came through the sliding glass door in a hard white rectangle. Outside, the small backyard looked sunburned, the gravel bright and flat, the lemon tree leaves hanging still in the heat. Claire dropped the mail on the counter and looked at her phone again. The message from Marianne was still open. "Honey, I've been thinking about Flagstaff. I don't believe this is the right time. Please tell Evan I'm sorry. We'll find something quieter another weekend." No exclamation point, no heart, no second sentence about loving him. Just quieter. Claire had read it twice in the parking lot at work before driving home. Then once at a red light, then again in the garage, with the engine off and her hand still on the steering wheel. "Please tell Evan." Not "I'll call him." Not "let me explain." "Please tell Evan." From the hallway came the soft thump of socks on tile. Evan Wells appeared at the kitchen entrance with his school polo untucked and his hair flattened on one side from the car ride home. At 10, he was still young enough to look breakable when he was disappointed and old enough to try not to. He stood there with his lunchbox in one hand and a folded paper in the other, scanning Claire's face before he asked anything. That was new. Claire hated that it was new. "Hey," she said, making her voice lighter. "Backpack." He looked down as if surprised to see it there. "Oh, and one shoe." He pushed the backpack toward the wall with his foot but did not pick it up. Claire set her phone face down on the counter. "How was school?" "Fine." "Just fine?" He shrugged. "We had PE outside." "In this heat?" "Coach said it was only warm." Claire snorted before she could stop herself. "Coach is wrong." That usually got something out of him. A grin, a complaint, a dramatic story about blacktop and unfair adults. Today he only nodded and opened his lunchbox. His folded paper stayed in his other hand. "What's that?" Claire asked. He looked at it. "My list." Claire went still, just a little. "For Flagstaff?" "Yeah." He unfolded it and smoothed it on the counter with his palm. "I added snacks, but Grandma said maybe not too salty snacks, so I put apples. And pretzels with no salt if they have those. Do they have those?" Claire looked at the list. Sweatshirt, cards, binoculars, bird notebook, apples. No salt pretzels, Grandma's pills, phone charger for Grandma. Ask Mom if hotel has elevator. The last 3 had been added in smaller handwriting. Claire swallowed. "Did Grandma ask you to put her pills on there?" she said. "No, I just thought if she forgot, then..." He slid one finger along the edge of the paper. "I don't know. You don't have to worry about Grandma's pills." I wasn't worried. The denial came too fast, too flat. Claire reached for the lunchbox because she needed something to do. "You left half your sandwich. It got warm. It's supposed to be cold." It had mayo. It was in an ice pack. The ice pack wasn't cold anymore. Claire nodded. "Okay, fair." He watched her throw the sandwich away, still waiting, still trying not to ask. Claire closed the trash drawer gently. "Evan." His shoulders shifted, small. She hated Marianne for 1 second. Not all the way, not in a clean way. The feeling came like a match struck and blown out inside her chest. It left the smell of smoke. Grandma texted me, she said. Evan looked at the paper, not at Claire. She doesn't think this weekend is a good time for the trip. He did not speak. Claire kept her voice careful. She said she's sorry. When? When did she say it? No, he folded one corner of the list. When is a good time? She said maybe another weekend. But when? I don't know yet. He nodded once as if this were useful information. Then he folded the list in half. The crease did not line up, so he opened it and tried again. Claire wanted him to get mad. She could handle mad. Mad had shape. Mad slammed doors and forgot homework and said things like, "This is stupid." Mad could be talked to. Evan pressed the fold flat with his thumbnail. Did she get bad numbers? He asked. Claire stared at him. What? Grandma, did she get bad numbers? What numbers? Her blood pressure ones, or the heart one. Claire leaned back against the counter. Did she talk to you about that? Not really. Evan, she just says sometimes she has to check. He looked embarrassed now, as if he had told on someone by accident. When we played cards, she checked after. Claire remembered the sheet on Marianne's refrigerator. Evan visit. Laughed too hard during card game. Heart rate 104. Recovered 11 minutes. The words were suddenly there in the kitchen with them, as clear as if Marianne had taped them to Claire's own fridge. She checked after you played cards? Yeah, but she said it was okay. Did she seem upset? I don't know. What do you mean? I don't know how to tell anymore. He said it quietly to the list. Claire did not move. The air conditioner clicked on. Cold air pushed through the vent above the sliding door, stirring the edge of a school flyer on the counter. Evan folded the list smaller. Is Grandma scared of me too? Claire felt the question before she understood it. No, she said too quickly. He looked up. No, honey, no, she is not scared of you. But when I was there, she said not to run in the house. You shouldn't run in the house. Then she said not to surprise her. Well, surprising people isn't always and not to make her laugh too hard. Claire stopped. Evan's mouth tightened. He looked down again. I was trying to be funny. I wasn't trying to make her sick. Oh, Ev. I know she had the stroke thing. I know it was scary. I just don't know what I'm allowed to do. Claire came around the island, but Evan moved first, not away exactly, just sideways toward his backpack. He was not rejecting comfort. He was avoiding the size of it. He hated being made into a little kid when he had already decided to be brave. Claire let him have the space. Grandma's having a hard time, she said. I know. That doesn't mean you did anything wrong. I know. He did not sound like he knew. Claire looked at him standing there, one sock twisted at the ankle, the folded list in his hand, and felt something in her settle into a harder shape. This was not soup. This was not a thermometer in a refrigerator. This was her son measuring himself around Marianne's fear. Can I go do homework? Evan asked. You just got home. I have math. It was Thursday. He almost never started homework before a snack unless something was wrong. Claire nodded. Yeah, go ahead. He bent, picked up the backpack, forgot the shoe, remembered it, grabbed it by the heel, and walked out of the kitchen. At the doorway, he stopped. Don't tell Grandma I asked that. Claire's hand tightened on the counter edge. Okay, she said. He left. Claire stood there until she heard his bedroom door close. Not slammed, quietly pulled until the latch clicked. Then she picked up her phone. Marianne answered on the fourth ring. Hi, sweetheart. Claire closed her eyes at the word, sweetheart, as if everything were normal, as if she had not just handed a 10-year-old a cancellation through his mother. Hi, Mom. Did you get my message? Yes. I thought texting would be better. I didn't want to interrupt you at work. You didn't interrupt me. You don't have to sound like that. Claire opened her eyes. The list was still on the counter. Evan had left it behind. Like what? Like you're bracing yourself. Claire almost laughed. I am bracing myself. A pause. Well, Marianne said, that seems unnecessary. Evan had a list. I know, he told me. He added your pills to it. That was sweet. It's not sweet, Mom. Marianne's silence changed. Claire walked to the sliding door and looked out at the yard because if she stared at the list, she would say too much too fast. He's 10, Claire said. He's making travel plans around your medication. That's not a terrible thing for a child to learn. People have needs. He thinks he has to manage you. No, he doesn't. He asked if you got bad numbers. Marianne did not answer. He asked if you were scared of him. That is not what I said. I didn't say you said it. Then don't put words in my mouth. I'm telling you what he asked me. And I'm telling you that is not fair. There it was again. Fair. As if Claire had built the question herself and handed it to Evan. As if a child's hurt were a tactic. Claire pressed her fingers against the cool glass of the door. I'm not trying to be unfair. You're making it sound like I canceled to punish him. Did you call him? I thought it would be less upsetting coming from you. Less upsetting for who? Marianne inhaled through the phone. Claire could hear it because Marianne had begun breathing that way since March. Measured, through the nose, as if every breath had to prove it belonged there. I'm not going to be guilted into taking a trip that isn't safe for me, Marianne said. What part isn't safe? The drive, for one. I'm driving. It's still 2 hours. 2 hours on the highway. Exactly. Claire shut her eyes again. Marianne continued, calmer now that she had a list. Then there's elevation. Heat here, cooler there, restaurant food, different sleep, hotel bedding, the timing of my medications. And you know how Evan gets when he's excited? He gets happy. He gets loud. He's a child. I know that. No, I don't think you do right now. Marianne made a small sound, not quite a scoff. Claire, what? I raised you. Claire turned from the glass. That doesn't answer what I said. It answers plenty. For a few seconds, neither of them spoke. Claire could picture her mother's kitchen. The clean counters, the white mug, the red pen, the sheets on the refrigerator door. She could see Marianne standing too straight beside them, one hand near the phone, ready to end the call if the conversation became something she could not control. Mom, Claire said, softer despite herself. He was excited. He wanted to have this with you. I wanted that too. Then why didn't you talk to me before canceling? I did talk to you last week. I said I had concerns. You said you wanted to think about it. I thought about it and decided alone. It concerns my body. That is mine to decide. Claire looked toward the hallway. Evan's door was closed. A thin line of light showed underneath. Yes, as she said, your body is yours, but he's my kid. I'm aware Evan is your child. And if being around you means he has to watch every laugh, every snack, every noise, then I have to think about that. I never asked him to watch every laugh. You wrote it down. The line went quiet. Claire regretted saying it, but not enough to take it back. Marianne's voice returned lower. You had no right to read my private notes. They were on the refrigerator, in my home. I wasn't snooping. You were looking for something to use. I was looking at my mother's kitchen. Same thing, apparently. Claire rubbed her hand over her face. She was still in her work blouse. The collar felt too tight. She had meant to change when she got home. She had meant to give Evan a snack, ask about school, maybe throw laundry in before dinner. Normal things. Instead, she was standing in the kitchen arguing with her mother about a trip that had already been killed. I don't want to fight, Claire said. Then don't. That's not how this works. It seems to be how it works lately. Claire's laugh came out sharp. Lately? Mom, lately you reject soup because I can't give you a sodium count down to the grain. I have to be careful. You have to eat. I am eating. Enough? Yes. Are you sure? That is exactly what I mean, Marianne said. What? The tone, the checking, the little questions. Because you're not telling me things. I don't owe you a report every time I make dinner. No, but if you're getting dizzy or skipping meals or... I'm not discussing this with you. Fine, then discuss Evan. I'm thinking of Evan. No, you're thinking of what might happen to you in front of Evan. The words came out before Claire could soften them. On the other end, Marianne went very still. Claire could hear nothing for a moment. No breath, no room noise, nothing. Then Marianne said, You think I want him to see that? Her voice was not angry now. Claire's grip loosened on the phone. For one moment, something opened, not enough to walk through, just enough to see the dark behind it. Claire could have said, No, Mom, I think you're terrified. I think you woke up in March and never stopped waking up there. I think you keep turning every room into a place where nothing can happen because something already did. But Evan's folded list sat on the counter, and Claire was tired. And she had been gentle for weeks. I think he already sees more than you know, she said. Marianne made a small, wounded sound, then covered it with a cough. That is a cruel thing to say. I'm not trying to be cruel. You keep saying that while you say cruel things. Claire looked at the ceiling. The air conditioner had stopped. The house held the silence afterward. I'm setting a boundary, Claire said. The phrase sounded too clean the second it left her mouth. Too much like something from a parenting podcast. Marianne would hate it. She did. A boundary, Marianne repeated. Yes, with your mother. With anyone who makes my kid feel responsible for their health. I did not make him responsible. Not on purpose. That does not make it better, does it? Claire said nothing. Marianne's voice sharpened again, safer in anger. So what is the boundary, Claire? If Evan comes over, he gets to be a kid. He can laugh. He can eat normal snacks. He can play a game without you checking your pulse because he made you happy. You have no idea what you're asking. I'm asking you not to make him afraid of being near you. I'm trying not to die. I know. No, you don't know. You say you know, but you don't. You think because you work around medical bills and insurance codes, you understand what it is to wake up and not know if your own face is working. Claire closed her mouth. The sentence had edges, real ones. She could feel them. I'm not saying I understand, Claire said. You are saying I'm hurting him. I'm saying this is starting to touch him. He'll forget about a canceled trip. The words were too quick. Claire looked down at the list again. Sweatshirt, cards, bird notebook. No, she said. He won't. Marianne exhaled. He's 10, Claire. That doesn't mean he doesn't notice. It means he can be disappointed and survive it. This isn't just disappointment. It was one weekend. It's not one weekend if it becomes the rule. What rule? That anything that makes you nervous gets canceled. Anything that makes your numbers move gets written down. Anything that feels alive is too much. Claire stopped. That was too much. Too close to saying the whole thing. Marianne heard it. Of course she did. So now I'm not alive enough for you? Mom. No, say it. That's what you mean. That is not what I mean. You think I'm doing this wrong. You think I'm old and frightened and making everyone uncomfortable. Claire leaned both hands on the counter. I think you're scared, she said. And I think you're making Evan scared too. There it was. Not elegant, not kind enough, not wrong enough to take back. Marianne said nothing. Claire waited. When Marianne finally spoke, her voice had gone flat. If my being careful is too difficult for him, then maybe he should not come over for a while. Claire's throat tightened. She had known her mother could be defensive. She had known Marianne could turn hurt into pride faster than anyone. But hearing her say it that way, as if Evan's visits were a privilege she could withdraw before anyone withdrew from her, made Claire feel suddenly cold. Is that what you want? Claire asked. I want not to be interrogated. That's not what I asked. I heard what you asked. No, you avoided what I asked. And you're very good at cornering people. Claire almost said, I learned from you. She did not. From the hallway, Evan's door opened. Claire turned. He appeared with a math workbook against his chest, eyes moving from Claire's face to the phone in her hand. He had heard enough to know who it was. Maybe not the words, maybe only the shape. Claire lowered her voice. I'm going to go. Fine, Marianne said. I'm coming with you to Dr. Patel on Thursday. No, you're not. Yes, I am. That appointment is routine. Then it'll be easy. Claire, I'm not asking. The moment she said it, she hated herself a little. Marianne heard it exactly as Claire feared she would. No, Marianne said very quietly, you wouldn't be. Claire looked at Evan. He had not moved. I'll call you later, Claire said. I'm sure you will. The line went dead. Claire lowered the phone. Evan stood in the hallway, his math workbook bent slightly under his fingers. Was she mad, he asked. Claire put the phone face down on the counter. A little. Because of me? No. He looked at her. Not because of you, Claire said again more firmly. He nodded, but the nod was polite. Something given to an adult who needed it. Can you help with number 6, he asked. Claire looked at the list still lying on the counter, then at the workbook pressed against his chest. Yeah, she said. Come here. He came to the island and climbed onto the stool, opening the workbook to long division. Claire stood beside him, reading numbers she could barely see. Across town, Marianne sat at her own kitchen table with the phone still in her hand. She did not remember sitting down. The tea from that morning was gone. The white mug sat in the sink, rinsed and turned upside down on a folded paper towel. The kitchen was clean. The refrigerator sheets were straight. The red pen was exactly where it belonged. Still, the room felt disturbed. Marianne placed the phone on the table and reached for her notebook. Not the refrigerator sheets. The smaller notebook she kept in the drawer beside the placemats. Private notes. Things too complicated for categories. She opened to a fresh line and wrote the time. 4:42 p.m. Then she paused. Claire had said she was coming to Dr. Patel. Not asking. Coming, Marianne wrote carefully. Claire using Evan to pressure me. Stress spike. She set down the pen and looked at the sentence. It was accurate enough. It was not complete. Her hand moved again before she decided what to write. Evan asked if I was scared of him. The ink sat dark on the page. Marianne stared at his name. Evan. Her hand gave one small shake, just enough to blur the tail of the N. The doctor visit. Marianne buttoned the top button of her blouse in the parking lot and immediately unbuttoned it again. Too tight. The fabric was pale gray, cotton, ironed the night before, and laid over the back of the bedroom chair so she would not have to decide in the morning. She had chosen it because it looked calm, not dressy, not sick, not like a person trying to prove a point. Now it felt wrong at the throat. Beside her, Claire turned off the engine, but left both hands on the steering wheel for a second longer than necessary. The clinic sat in a low beige building between a dental office and an imaging center. The kind of medical plaza where every door looked almost the same. A Palo Verde tree dropped yellow petals across the sidewalk. The April heat had already started pressing against the windshield, flattening the air inside the car. You ready? Claire asked. Marianne looked at the clinic entrance. Automatic doors, blue sign. A woman in leggings pushing an older man in a transport chair. A FedEx driver carrying a stack of envelopes under one arm. "I've been ready," Marianne said. Claire glanced at her. "I didn't mean it like that." "I know, but of course she had." Claire had driven even though Marianne had said she could drive herself. Claire had arrived 10 minutes early with coffee in the cup holder and a folder tucked into the side pocket of her tote. She had not said what was in the folder. Marianne had not asked. As they walked across the parking lot, Claire stayed half a step behind her, not beside her, close enough to catch, far enough to pretend she was not trying. Marianne hated that she noticed. Inside, the waiting room smelled faintly of disinfectant and the bitter coffee from the machine in the corner. A television mounted near the ceiling played a morning talk show with the sound low and captions running too fast to read. 3 people sat spaced apart in vinyl chairs. One coughed into his elbow. Another scrolled through his phone. A woman near the window filled out a clipboard with the grim patience of someone who had done it too many times. At the front desk, the receptionist slid a clipboard toward Marianne. "Any changes to medications?" "No." Claire looked at her. Marianne felt the look more than saw it. "No," she said again, signing the line. "Insurance the same?" "Yes." "Emergency contact?" Marianne paused. The receptionist looked up. Claire stood beside her, quiet, tote strap over one shoulder, her face carefully neutral. "Same," Marianne said. Claire's mouth moved as if she might say something. She did not. They sat near the hallway door. Claire chose the chair beside Marianne instead of across from her. She set the tote at her feet and folded her hands on top of it. Marianne kept her purse in her lap. "You don't have to come in," she said. Claire turned. "Mom, it's a routine appointment." "I know. Then I can handle it." "I didn't say you couldn't. You said it by coming." Claire looked toward the television. On screen, a woman in a bright yellow dress laughed silently at something a man beside her had said. "I'm not trying to make this harder," Claire said. Marianne almost answered. Then a nurse opened the hallway door. "Marianne Wells?" She stood before Claire could offer a hand. The nurse was young, maybe late 20s, with a badge that read Kendra in pink compression socks under navy scrubs. She smiled at Marianne, then at Claire. "Both of you today?" Marianne heard the question inside the question. "Yes," Claire said. Marianne said nothing. Kendra led them down the hall to the scale first. "If you can just step up for me." Marianne slipped off her sandals because she always did. Shoes could add a pound. A pound could make people say things. She stepped onto the scale and looked straight ahead at the wall while the number blinked. Kendra wrote it down. Claire saw it. Again, that barely there shift in her face. Marianne stepped off and slid her feet back into the sandals. "Blood pressure next," Kendra said. In the exam room, Marianne sat on the paper-covered table while Claire took the chair near the wall. The paper crinkled under Marianne each time she adjusted her posture. She placed both feet flat on the step, then lifted them because the step was narrow, then lowered them again. The room was cool. Too cool. The kind of cool that made numbers unreliable. Kendra wrapped the cuff around Marianne's arm. "Any dizziness, headaches, changes in vision, weakness?" "No." Claire shifted in the chair. Marianne looked at the poster on the wall. "Fast, face drooping, arm weakness, speech difficulty, time to call 911. "No," Marianne repeated. The cuff tightened. She watched Kendra's face while the machine worked. Nurses had faces for numbers. They were trained to keep them small, but not always well enough. The cuff loosened. 13/78, Kendra said. "Pulse 82. Marianne did not like the 132, the drive, the parking lot. "Claire, the question about both of you today. The scale, the poster, all of that counted. That's higher than home," she said. "Still okay," Kendra said. Claire's eyes moved to her. Marianne looked away. After Kendra left, the room filled with the faint hum of the air vent. Claire picked a piece of lint from her pants. Marianne read the medication list on the computer screen, though it was turned slightly away from her. Finally, Claire said, "Have you been dizzy?" "No, not at all." Marianne folded her hands. "I answered the nurse." "I know what you answered." "Then why ask again?" Claire's jaw worked once. "Because you looked at me when she asked." "I looked at you because you were looking at me." "I was looking because—" The door opened. Dr. Samir Patel stepped in with a tablet in one hand and reading glasses pushed up on his head. He had been Marianne's primary care doctor for nearly 12 years, long enough to remember when Claire still brought Evan in with ear infections and a stuffed dinosaur under his arm. He had a calm, measured voice, the kind that made bad news sound survivable without making it sound small. "Marianne," he said, smiling. "Good to see you." "Good to see you too." "And Claire," he nodded toward her. "I'm glad you could come." Marianne felt the sentence like a draft under a closed door. Claire sat a little straighter. "Thanks." Dr. Patel pulled the rolling stool closer but did not sit yet. He glanced at the tablet. So, 3 months out from the TIA, no new neurological symptoms? No, Marianne said. Good. Any weakness, speech trouble, facial drooping, sudden vision changes? No. Any falls? No. Claire's shoe shifted against the floor. Dr. Patel noticed, because doctors noticed everything and then pretended not to until they needed it. He sat on the stool. Appetite? Fine. Claire made a small sound. Marianne turned. What? Nothing. Dr. Patel looked between them. Maybe not nothing. Claire opened her mouth, then closed it. I'm not trying to take over. No one said you were, Marianne said. Dr. Patel rested the tablet on his knee. Why don't we just put everything on the table? Marianne, how have you been eating? Carefully. The corner of his mouth lifted. That's a style, not an amount. Claire looked down quickly. Marianne disliked the tiny alliance of almost humor. Low sodium. Mostly lean protein, vegetables, oatmeal, some fruit. I'm avoiding processed foods. That part sounds good, he said. How many meals a day? Usually 3. Usually? Sometimes 2 if breakfast is late. Claire said, she's lost weight. Marianne turned toward her. I was overweight. You weren't. I had room to lose some. Dr. Patel tapped something into the tablet. You have lost weight. Some of that may be expected with diet changes, but I don't want you under-eating. Older adults lose muscle faster than they think, especially after a medical event. I'm not under-eating. What does lunch look like? Marianne wished she had brought her notebook. Then she was glad she had not. Claire would have seen the relief on her face when she opened it. Chicken, vegetables, sometimes broth. Portion? Enough. Claire's laugh was silent, but Marianne heard it anyway. Dr. Patel did not push immediately. He took his glasses off his head and put them on. Protein matters, he said. Strength matters. We're trying to reduce your stroke risk, yes, but not by making you frail. The word frail sat there in its white coat. Marianne folded her hands tighter. I walk every day, she said. How far? Depends on the heat. Good. Heat is real here. Morning is better. 10, 15 minutes is fine if that's what the day allows. I do more than that sometimes. I'm sure you do. He looked at the tablet, then back at her. How often are you checking blood pressure? Marianne felt Claire become still beside the wall. Morning and evening, she said. Dr. Patel waited. And sometimes if I feel something. What kind of something? A headache, tingling, lightheadedness, if I wake up and feel off? How often is sometimes? Marianne looked at the cuff basket on the counter. 3 cuffs in different sizes, coiled like sleeping snakes. It depends on the day, Claire said. She has charts on the refrigerator. Marianne's face warmed. I track information. She wrote down that laughing with Evan raised her heart rate. Dr. Patel's expression did not change much. That was one of the things Marianne had always liked about him. He did not make big faces. He did not widen his eyes or lean back or rush to soothe. He turned to Marianne. Did that worry you? It was over 100. After laughing? Yes. For how long? 11 minutes. You timed it? Marianne looked down at the hem of her blouse. I checked when it came down. Dr. Patel nodded once, not approving, not condemning. Okay. Claire leaned forward. Is that normal? I mean, for her heart rate to go up like that? Yes, he said. Heart rate can rise with laughter, standing, walking, worry, digestion, heat, all kinds of things. A number by itself doesn't always mean danger. Marianne knew that. Of course she knew that. Knowing did not help at 3:12 in the morning when the house was dark and her left hand felt unfamiliar. Dr. Patel set the tablet aside. Marianne, monitoring can be useful, but if checking creates more alarm, and then the alarm creates more symptoms, and then the symptoms lead to more checking, it can become a loop. Claire sat very still. Marianne wanted to disappear from the paper-covered table. I'm not panicking, she said. I didn't say panic. You're implying it. I'm saying I want your recovery to be sustainable. That's what I'm trying to do. I believe you. He leaned back a little, and part of that is eating enough, moving regularly but not punishing yourself, taking your medication as prescribed, and not letting numbers take over the whole day. Claire exhaled softly, almost in relief. Marianne heard it. There it was, the thing Claire had brought her here for. Not a checkup, a witness. I don't let them take over the whole day, Marianne said. Dr. Patel looked at her kindly. Kindness could be worse than correction. How many times did you check yesterday, he asked. Marianne tried to remember the official number. Morning, after breakfast because of the slight pressure behind her right eye, after the mail because she bent too quickly, before lunch, after Claire's text about confirming the appointment, evening, before bed. 4, she said. Claire looked at her. Maybe it was not a lie. Maybe she had forgotten. Maybe before bed was technically today because it had been after midnight. Maybe the mail did not count because the first reading failed and she had to redo it. Dr. Patel did not challenge her. That's more than I'd like unless there's a specific reason we've discussed. Claire asked, what would you like? Marianne turned sharply. He can tell me. Claire leaned back. Dr. Patel lifted one hand slightly. Let's aim for once a day at a consistent time for now. Plus, if you have clear symptoms. Not every sensation needs a reading. If you have sudden weakness, speech trouble, facial droop, severe headache, chest pain, shortness of breath, you don't sit and collect numbers. You call 911. I know that. I'm saying it anyway. The room quieted. Then Dr. Patel asked about sleep. Marianne said it was fine. Claire said, she's up at night. Marianne said, I'm 67. People wake up. Dr. Patel asked about mood. Marianne said, I'm concerned, not depressed. Claire looked at the floor. Dr. Patel accepted that, or seemed to. He adjusted her medications only slightly, ordered routine labs, and reminded her again about protein, hydration, steady walking, and calling if anything changed. At the end, he printed a summary. Claire reached for it. Marianne reached first. Their fingers almost touched. Dr. Patel pretended to check the printer tray. Marianne folded the papers and put them in her purse. In the hallway, Claire walked beside her more carefully than before. Marianne hated that too. Not behind her now. Beside her. As if the appointment had given her permission to match Marianne's pace. At checkout, the receptionist scheduled the next follow-up. Claire took out her phone. I can put it in my calendar, she said. I have a calendar. I know, I'll just put it in mine too. Marianne did not argue in front of the receptionist. Outside, the heat hit them with the flat force of an opened oven. Claire unlocked the car. Marianne got in without help and fastened her seatbelt before Claire reached her own door. For the first few minutes, they drove in silence. The clinic disappeared behind them. Beige walls, blue sign, automatic doors. A normal appointment. A routine follow-up. Nothing dramatic. Claire stopped at a red light. Well, she said carefully, and I thought that went okay. Marianne looked out the window at a landscaping crew blowing dust off a sidewalk. The dust lifted, moved, settled again. Of course you did. Claire turned her head. What does that mean? It means you heard what you wanted. I heard him say you need to eat more. He said protein matters. He said he doesn't want you becoming frail. Marianne's hands tightened in her lap. You seem pleased with that word? I'm not pleased. You looked relieved. I was relieved someone else said it. Someone else. So that was what he had been in the room. Not her doctor, someone else. A second voice for Claire. The light changed. Claire drove. I'm not the enemy here, she said. I didn't say you were. You didn't have to. Marianne watched a line of palm trees pass in front of a pharmacy sign. She could see her reflection faintly in the passenger window. Gray blouse, short white hair, mouth held too firm. Claire's voice softened. Mom, we just need to make sure you're safe living alone. The car seemed to lose sound around the edges. Safe living alone. Not safe. Not living. Not alone. All three words arranged like a quiet inspection. Marianne kept her eyes on the window. Claire continued, unaware of what she had opened. That doesn't mean anything extreme. It just means maybe we should think through some things. Like check-ins. Maybe I have a copy of... No, Claire stopped. I didn't finish. You didn't need to. I was going to say a key. You have a key. I know, but if you change... Claire caught herself half a second too late. Marianne turned her head. Claire kept both eyes on the road. If I change what? Nothing. No, say it. Mom, if I change what? Claire sighed. If something changes, if there's an emergency. You mean if I become confused? I did not say that. If I fall, I didn't say that either. If I stop being convenient? Claire's face tightened. That's not fair. There was that word again. Fair. Marianne looked forward. When Claire pulled into Marianne's driveway, the garage door was closed. The cactus by the front walk had put out one red bloom. Marianne had watered it Tuesday before 7, before the heat came up. She remembered because she had written it on the walking sheet. Yard work. 6 minutes. No dizziness. Claire put the car in park but did not unlock the doors right away. I'm trying to help, she said. Marianne unbuckled her seatbelt. I know. You say that like you don't. I said I know. Can we not do this? Marianne looked at her daughter then. Claire's eyes were tired. Her hair had slipped loose near one temple. She looked younger for a second, or maybe only more worn down. Marianne could remember her at 10, standing in the same driveway with a scraped knee, refusing to cry because she wanted to be the kind of girl who did not make a fuss. Now she was 39 and still trying not to make one. Marianne almost reached across the console. Almost. Then she saw the folder in Claire's tote, the corner of a brochure or printed packet just visible inside. Not enough to read, enough to imagine. Check-ins. Keys. Safe living alone. She opened the car door. "Thank you for the ride," she said. "Mom, I need to take my lunch medication." "At least let me come in and—" "No." Claire leaned back as if the word had pushed her. "Okay." Marianne stepped out into the heat. She walked to the front door without looking back. She did not hurry. Hurrying would give Claire something else to worry about. Inside, the house was cool and ordered. The refrigerator sheets waited in their straight rows. The blood pressure cuff sat folded on the counter where she had left it. The white mug was upside down on its towel. Marianne set her purse on the kitchen table and took out the visit summary. Eat adequate protein. Walk daily as tolerated. Check BP once daily unless symptomatic. Call 911 for stroke warning signs. Follow up in 3 months. She read it twice. Then she folded it smaller and placed it in the drawer beneath the placemats, not on the refrigerator. 14 that evening after dinner, after medication, after one blood pressure reading she did not write down because it had been higher than she wanted, Marianne stood in the garage and opened the keypad cover. The small rubber buttons were worn on the old code. Claire knew that code, had known it for years. Evan knew it too, though he always forgot whether the last 2 digits were Claire's birthday or his. Marianne pressed the reset button. The motor unit beeped. She entered a new code. Not a dramatic thing, not cruel, not permanent. Just a boundary. The word tasted different when it belonged to her. Back inside, her phone lit on the kitchen table. Claire. Marianne stood beside the table and watched it ring. The call went silent. A few seconds later, it lit again. Claire. Marianne did not pick up. The refrigerator hummed. The wall clock moved 1 small second at a time. Outside, beyond the kitchen window, the garage door sat closed and still in the dark. The brochure. Claire was already at the garage keypad when Marianne heard the second call come through. The phone lit on the kitchen table, buzzing against the wood in short, angry bursts. Marianne stood beside it with a glass of water in one hand and her afternoon pill in the other. Claire. Again. The first call had come while Marianne was in the bathroom. The second, while she was checking the expiration date on the almond milk. The third she had watched until it stopped. Now this one. Marianne set the pill on her tongue and swallowed before looking toward the garage door. Through the wall, faint but clear, came the small electronic beep of the keypad. 1 beep, a pause, 4 more, then a longer flat sound. Wrong code. Marianne closed her eyes. The house was quiet around her. Too quiet, maybe. The kind of quiet that made every small sound arrive with a purpose. The refrigerator motor, the air conditioner, the pill bottle cap clicking back into place, Claire outside entering a code that no longer belonged to her. The keypad beeped again. Wrong. Marianne put the glass in the sink, rinsed it, and set it upside down on the folded towel. She could have left it. Claire would not see one glass and think collapse. But Marianne saw it, and if Claire came in upset, she would see everything. The refrigerator sheets were straight. The blood pressure cuff was in its case. The visit summary from Dr. Patel was not on the counter. The smaller notebook was in the drawer beneath the placemats. The phone buzzed again. Marianne did not answer. A knock came at the door between the laundry room and the garage, not the front door. Claire had gone through the side gate and into the garage alcove, the way family did when they were not trying to be company. "Mom?" Claire called. Marianne stood still. Another knock, sharper. "Mom, I know you're home." That was the trouble with daughters. They knew too many things. Which light you left on in the afternoon. Which window shade meant you were in the kitchen. Which days you took out trash. Which car in the garage meant your body was somewhere inside the house, available to worry over. Marianne walked to the laundry room. She did not hurry. Before opening the door, she smoothed the front of her blouse and checked her posture in the small mirror above the utility sink. Pale face, hair neat, mouth too firm. She softened it. Then she opened the door. Claire stood in the garage, one hand still lifted from knocking, the other gripping the strap of her tote. She wore her work clothes, black pants, and a blue blouse, but she looked as if she had driven without remembering the drive. Her sunglasses were on top of her head, tangled in her hair. Her phone was in her hand, screen still lit. The garage behind her was hot, the air thick with dust and stored cardboard. The old code pad glowed red. "Why didn't you answer?" Claire asked. "No hello, no careful smile today." Marianne kept one hand on the door edge. "I was busy. I called 4 times. I saw." Claire stared at her. For a moment, neither of them moved. A strip of sunlight cut across the garage floor and touched the toe of Claire's shoe. She looked at the keypad, then back at Marianne. "You changed the code." "Yes." "When?" "Last night." "Why?" Marianne stepped back from the doorway. "Come in or don't. I'm not talking with the garage open." Claire looked as if she might refuse on principle, then came inside. Marianne closed the door behind her. The laundry room smelled faintly of detergent and dryer heat. A basket of folded towels sat on top of the washer. Claire noticed that too, of course. Towels folded. Mother upright. No emergency. Her fear had nowhere to go, so it turned into anger. "I thought something happened," Claire said. "Nothing happened. You didn't answer your phone. I'm allowed not to answer my phone. Not after yesterday." Marianne walked into the kitchen. "Yesterday was a doctor's appointment." Claire followed. "Yesterday was you changing the garage code and then ignoring my calls. You found that out today." "Mom." Marianne reached the kitchen table and turned. "What?" Claire stopped near the island. Her tote slipped down her shoulder. She shoved it back up too hard. "You can't just lock me out and then not answer." "I didn't lock you out. You don't live here." The words came out flatter than Marianne intended. Claire's face changed, but she did not look away. "I know I don't live here." "Good. I came because you didn't answer. And I opened the door, after I had to stand outside wondering if you were on the floor." The kitchen held that sentence. On the floor. Marianne glanced once, despite herself, toward the lower cabinets near the sink. The spot from the cold open lived ahead of her. Not behind her yet, but the image rose anyway. Tile, phone light, Claire's name pulsing on the screen. She looked back at Claire. "That's what you imagine now?" Marianne asked. "I don't want to imagine it." "But you do." "Yes, Mom, I do." Claire's voice cracked slightly on the last word. She turned away, as if annoyed with herself for letting it show, and set her tote on one of the kitchen chairs. Marianne noticed the folder immediately. It was tucked inside the tote, manila, with a stack of papers pressed into it. Not hospital bills, not work forms. Something glossy at the corner, blue and white. A photograph of a courtyard, maybe? A woman sitting under an umbrella. Claire saw Marianne see it. Her hand moved toward the tote too quickly. "What's that?" Marianne asked. "Nothing, saying." "Then leave it." Claire froze. Marianne had not meant to say it that sharply. But the room had shifted. The air had gone thin, as if the house itself had leaned toward the tote. Claire pulled the folder out halfway, then stopped. "It's just paperwork." "For work?" "No." "For me?" Claire did not answer. That was enough. Marianne walked around the table. Claire picked up the folder, not hiding it exactly, but holding it against her chest. "Mom, don't do this." "Do what?" "Take one thing and turn it into something else." "What thing?" Claire's mouth tightened. "I was looking at options." "Options? In case we ever need them." "We." "That is not how I meant it." Marianne held out her hand. "Let me see." "No." The answer landed like a slap, not because Claire denied her, but because she had something to deny. Marianne looked at her daughter's hand pressed flat over the folder. "You brought it into my house." "I didn't bring it for you to see." "That makes it better." "It came from work. It was in my bag." "From work?" "No, not from work." Claire exhaled and lowered the folder to the table, but kept her hand on top of it. "I printed some information, that's all." "About what?" Claire did not move. Marianne reached for the edge of the glossy sheet sticking out from under the folder. Claire caught her wrist. Not hard, just enough. Marianne looked down at Claire's hand. Claire let go immediately. "I'm sorry," Claire said. Marianne pulled the brochure free. The front showed a smiling older couple walking along a paved garden path. Behind them, a tan building with shaded balconies and potted desert flowers. The font was soft, blue, expensive looking. Sonoran Vista Senior Living. Independent living. Assisted living. Memory support. For a few seconds, Marianne could not make the words arrange themselves. Then they did. Assisted living. Memory support. The kitchen narrowed. Claire was talking before Marianne looked up. "I was just researching, that's all. I haven't called anyone. I haven't scheduled anything. I haven't even..." "Memory... support?" No, Mom, no. I printed the whole packet because that's how the website... Memory support. That is not what I was looking at." Marianne laid the brochure on the table carefully, as if it might stain the wood. Claire moved closer. "And please listen to me." "I'm listening." "No, you're not. You're reading 2 words and deciding, I've already packed your closet." "Have you?" Claire flinched. "Of course not." "Have you made a list?" "No." "Called them?" "No." "Put down a deposit?" "Mom." "Don't mom me." Claire pressed both palms to the table and bent her head. For one moment, she looked like she was trying not to yell, or cry, or both. "I got scared," she said. Marianne waited. Claire lifted her head. "After the appointment, after what Dr. Patel said, after you changed the code, I don't know what I'm supposed to do and you won't answer and I can't get in. So you printed a brochure for a place with memory support." "I printed information for a place that has different levels of care." Care. It's a word, Mom. It's a place. It's not a plan. It's a place people go when their families are done dealing with them. That is not fair. Marianne laughed once quietly. There's that word again. Claire's face tightened. Because you keep making me into someone I'm not. And what am I making you? Some villain who wants to take your house. Marianne looked around the kitchen. The refrigerator sheets, the white mug upside down on its towel, the old magnets, the small cactus on the windowsill Evan had painted a face on 2 years ago. With a black Sharpie, the ink now faded into 2 uneven dots and a crooked smile. This house had held every version of her that still felt real. Walter's coffee ring on the garage workbench, though he had been dead 8 years. Claire's height marks on the pantry door frame, the ones Marianne had never painted over. Evan's plastic dinosaur in the hall closet, too cheap to save and too specific to throw away. People thought a house was a structure until someone started talking about options. I don't need you to take my house, Marianne said. I can see you're already taking the decision. Claire pushed away from the table. I am trying to make sure there's a plan if something happens. Something. Yes, something. Say what you mean. If you fall, if you have another TIA, if you get confused, if you need help I can't give you by myself. There it was, plain at last, ugly in the light. Marianne nodded. Claire saw the nod and seemed to panic. That doesn't mean now. That doesn't mean I think you can't live here. It means I'm one person. I have a job. I have Evan. I'm trying to be realistic. Realistic for whom? For all of us. All of us. Marianne touched the brochure with one finger. The paper was smooth, heavy. Did Evan help choose the courtyard? Claire looked wounded. Don't. Does he know Grandma might get a balcony? Stop. Maybe he can visit on Sundays. Mom, stop. Or maybe that would be too much for him, too. Claire's jaw clenched. This is why I didn't want you to see it. No, you didn't want me to see it because you knew what it was. It is information. It is a threat wearing nice landscaping. Claire looked away. For the first time since she arrived, she had no quick answer. Marianne saw it. She saw the exhaustion, the fear, and something else Claire had not meant to show. Relief. Not relief that Marianne would go there. Not exactly. Relief that a place like that existed. Relief that someone else might one day hold the clipboard, the medication list, the emergency calls, the questions Claire did not want to ask, and Marianne did not want to answer. That small relief was worse than anger. Marianne picked up the brochure and opened it. A dining room with white tablecloths, smiling people with silver hair, chef-prepared meals, wellness checks, medication management, support when you need it, independence when you want it. She read that line twice. Independence when you want it. As if independence were an activity offered between chair yoga and movie night. Claire's voice softened. I don't want to fight. That's what you call it? What? This. Showing up because I don't answer fast enough. Trying a code you no longer have, bringing this into my kitchen, calling it not fighting. I was worried. That's what you call it. Claire stared at her. Marianne closed the brochure. I had a doctor's appointment. I came home. I took my medication. I ate lunch. I changed a code on my own garage. None of those things are emergencies. You also lied about how often you check your blood pressure. Marianne went still. Claire looked as if she wished she had not said it. Then, stubbornly, as if she was too tired to take it back, she kept going. You said 4 times. I saw your refrigerator, Mom. That was before he told me once a day. That was the day before. You don't know what day that sheet was from. I know your handwriting. Marianne felt the heat rise into her face. Not shame exactly. Exposure. She turned toward the sink and rinsed the glass again, though it was already clean. Claire spoke behind her. Have you been dizzy? No. Mom? No. Please don't do that. Do what? Shut down. Marianne placed the glass upside down on the towel, lining its rim with the fold. I'm not a project, she said. I know. I'm not one of your patient accounts. I know that. I'm not a problem you solve by finding the right facility. Claire flinched at facility. Good. The word deserved to sound cold. That brochure was not supposed to be a decision, Claire said. But you could imagine it. Claire did not answer. Marianne turned. You could imagine me there. Claire's eyes shone now, but no tears fell. She had always been like that. As a girl, she would fight the crying until her voice went hard. Marianne had admired it once, then worried about it. Then, after Walter died, relied on it more than she should have. I can imagine a lot of things lately, Claire said. Then stop. I can't. The 2 words were small, unpolished, almost lost. Marianne did not know what to do with them. For a second, the room opened in another direction. Claire in her car after work, printing brochures she hated, imagining a phone call she could not survive. Claire watching Evan watch Marianne. Claire standing outside the garage with the wrong code, thinking of tile floors and unanswered calls. Marianne saw it. Then she saw the brochure again. The courtyard, the dining room, medication management. Her sympathy folded back into itself. Claire reached for the folder. I'll throw it away. No. Mom, no, take it with you. I don't want it. You wanted options? Claire's hand dropped. Marianne picked up the brochure and slid it back into the folder. Her movements were neat, controlled. She did not trust her voice, but she trusted paper. Paper could be squared, stacked, returned. Claire watched her. I'm sorry you saw it this way, Claire said. Marianne looked up. The apology was wrong, not false, wrong. Not sorry you printed it. Claire opened her mouth, then closed it. There. Again, the answer before the answer. Marianne handed her the folder. Claire took it slowly. I don't know what you want from me, Claire said. The sentence was tired enough to be true. Marianne almost said, I want you to believe me. But that was not quite right. Believe what? That she was fine? She was not always fine. That she never got dizzy? She had once, briefly in the hallway, twice if she counted the grocery store, though the grocery store had been hot and crowded and anyone might have felt lightheaded under those lights. She wanted Claire to believe she was still the person who got to decide what fine meant. You can start, Marianne said, by not treating my life like something you need to get ahead of. Claire looked down at the folder against her chest. Outside, a car passed slowly on the street. Its bass thumped once through the walls and faded. Claire nodded, but not in agreement. In defeat, maybe, or delay. Evan's birthday dinner is Saturday, she said. The change of subject was too sudden. Marianne let it sit there. He asked if you were coming. Marianne pictured Evan at the kitchen island, one sock twisted, asking if Grandma was scared of him. She had written his name in the notebook and blurred the last letter. What did you tell him? I said I hoped so. Hoped. I didn't know. Because of me? Claire's shoulders dropped. Because I don't know what will make things worse anymore. The answer was honest. It should have softened something. Instead, it made Marianne feel as if she had already been placed behind glass. Observed, managed, invited conditionally. What time, Marianne asked. 6. At your house? Yes. Who's coming? Just us. Maybe 2 kids from his class for cake earlier, but dinner is family. Family. Marianne looked at the refrigerator. The sheet-marked incidents had been replaced the night before. The new one was cleaner, less detailed, more acceptable if seen. I'll let you know, she said. Claire's face tightened. Mom, that is not a no. It sounds like one. It sounds like I'll let you know. Claire hugged the folder to her side and walked toward the laundry room. At the doorway, she stopped. For what it's worth, she said, I don't want you gone. Marianne kept her eyes on the counter. I know. No, I said I know. Claire nodded once, as if she had expected nothing else, and went into the laundry room. The garage door opened and closed. A moment later, Marianne heard the muted sound of Claire's car starting. She stood in the kitchen until the engine faded. Then she walked to the refrigerator and removed the sheet marked sleep. Behind it, half hidden by the Grand Canyon magnet, was the older incidents page. The one with the dizzy note from Monday morning she had not copied onto the new sheet. She took it down, folded it once, then again, and put it into the drawer beneath the placemats with the doctor's summary. The house settled around her. On the kitchen table, her phone lit with a message from Claire. Evan's birthday dinner. Saturday at 6. Come if you feel up to it. Below the words was a small animated balloon Evan must have added from Claire's phone. It bounced silently on the screen, cheerful and stupid and impossible to answer. Across town, in her parked car outside the elementary school pickup lane, Claire stared at the same message thread. Her thumb hovered over Marianne's name. Then she opened the birthday invitation draft she had made for family, the one with Evan's grinning school photo and the line, dinner at 6, cake after. Under recipients, Marianne's name sat unchecked. Claire rested her thumb there and did not tap it. Not yet. Evan's birthday dinner. Marianne stood in front of her refrigerator at 5:12 with her purse on one shoulder and her dinner in a square glass container. The container was the right size. She had checked it twice. 3 ounces of plain chicken breast, half a cup of brown rice, steamed zucchini, no sauce. A lemon wedge wrapped in wax paper, no salt. It looked small inside the container. That was only because the container was wide. She closed the refrigerator door, then opened it again to make sure she had not forgotten anything. Medication was already in her purse. Water bottle filled, phone charged, blood pressure checked at 430. Higher than she liked, but not alarming. She had written it down, then crossed out the note because Dr. Patel had said once daily unless symptomatic. And she had already checked that morning. She had not been symptomatic. Concerned was not symptomatic. Annoyed was not symptomatic. Being invited to her grandson's birthday dinner by text, after her own daughter had stood in her kitchen with a brochure for assisted living, was not symptomatic. Marianne took the container from the refrigerator and set it inside a small insulated lunch bag. The bag was navy blue, a zipper that stuck at the corner. She had bought it years ago for a church picnic with Walter, back when she still went to those things, back when food was something people passed around on paper plates and not a negotiation. On the counter beside the lunch bag sat Evan's gift. She had wrapped it in blue paper with tiny silver stars. Not childish stars, not babyish. 10 was a hard age. Old enough to notice if you treated him like 6. Young enough to still want something wrapped. Inside was a new set of playing cards, the kind with large numbers and a smooth finish, and a puzzle book she had checked carefully before buying. No scary covers, no violent pictures, no loud cartoon nonsense. Just mazes, word searches, logic games. She had considered including binoculars for the trip they had not taken. Then she had put them back on the shelf at Target. That seemed cruel, though she could not have said to whom. Her phone chimed. "We're doing pizza at 6, cake after, no rush." No rush. Marianne looked at the message until the screen dimmed. There was always a rush now, even when people said there wasn't. A rush to answer. A rush to prove she was okay. A rush to be reasonable before someone decided she was not. Leaving soon. Then deleted it. "I'll be there at 6. Deleted that too. "On my way in a few." She put the phone in her purse, picked up the lunch bag and the gift, and turned off the kitchen light. Claire's house was 12 minutes away if traffic was normal. Marianne gave herself 25. By the time she pulled into the driveway, 2 small boys were racing across Claire's front yard with paper party hats on their heads and no shoes on their feet. One carried a balloon by its ribbon. The balloon bumped against the side of his face as he ran. The other boy shouted something about zombies. Though there were no costumes, no game pieces, no reason Marianne could see. Children could create noise out of air. Marianne parked at the curb instead of in the driveway, so she would not have to back out around them later. She sat for a moment, with both hands on the steering wheel. The boys crossed in front of her car without looking. Her right foot pressed harder against the brake, though the car was already in park. Through the front window, she could see movement inside Claire's house. People passing. A flash of red from a balloon taped to the back of a chair. The warm yellow rectangle of the kitchen. Claire's figure near the island, turning quickly from the oven to the counter. Marianne checked the time. 5:58. Not early, not late. She took the gift and lunch bag and walked up the path. The front door opened before she knocked. Evan stood there in a dark blue t-shirt with a pixelated rocket on it. His hair was damp in front, combed once and then forgotten. He had grown again. Or maybe she had not looked at him properly the last time. His wrists stuck out from his sleeves in a way that made him seem suddenly unfinished and older at the same time. "Grandma," he said, not rushing into her, not hanging back either. He held the door with both hands as if he had been assigned to welcome people and wanted to do it right. "Happy birthday, sweetheart." "Thanks." She lifted the gift. "For you." His face brightened for half a second, then checked itself, as if excitement might have rules. "Thanks, you can put it on the table. Mom said we're opening after dinner." "Then that's where it will go." She stepped inside. The house smelled of pizza, frosting, and the lemon cleaner Claire used when company was coming. From the family room came a burst of laughter, then a thud, then Claire's voice saying, "Not on the couch, guys." Evan closed the door carefully. "You okay?" he asked. Marianne looked at him. He was studying her face, trying not to look like he was studying her face. "I'm fine." "Oh, good." He stepped aside so she could pass. His eyes dropped to the lunch bag in her hand, then moved away quickly. Claire came out of the kitchen, wiping her hands on a dish towel. Her hair was clipped back loosely, a few strands falling around her face. She wore jeans and a black t-shirt with a dusting of flour or powdered sugar near the hem. She looked ordinary, busy, and tired in the way mothers looked at children's birthdays, as if joy required a great deal of cleanup. "Hi, Claire." Claire said, "Hi." Claire glanced at the lunch bag, too. Marianne waited. Claire did not say anything about it. That was worse somehow. The restraint had shape. Marianne could see Claire choosing not to react. "I brought my own dinner," Marianne said, keeping her voice low, "just to make it easier." Claire's hand tightened around the towel. "Okay." Dr. Patel said consistency is important. He said protein is important. "This has protein," one of the boys shouted from the family room. "Evan, come on." Evan looked between them. "I'll put the present with the others." He took the gift from Marianne and carried it to a side table where several bright bags and boxes were already piled. He placed hers carefully on top, then adjusted it so it did not slide. The lunch bag stayed in Marianne's hand. Claire stepped closer. "You can put that in the fridge if you want. I can keep it with me." "Mom." "What?" "Nothing." Claire turned back toward the kitchen. "Pizza's almost ready." "I won't be having any." "I figured." The words were plain, not sharp. Still, Marianne felt them as if they had been. In the dining area, the table had been set with paper plates printed with rockets and planets. A silver 10 balloon floated from the back of Evan's chair, swaying whenever someone walked past. On the counter sat a birthday cake under a clear plastic lid from the bakery. White frosting, blue border, red letters. "Happy birthday, Evan." The exclamation point had a little star on it. Marianne set her lunch bag on the chair beside where Claire told her to sit. Not at the head of the table. Not beside Evan. Across from him and slightly to the left. A normal seat. She told herself that was good. Claire brought the pizzas to the table. Cheese for one boy, pepperoni for Evan, vegetable for the adults. There were only 2 other children, both classmates, both staying for the first part before their parents picked them up after cake. Claire had told Marianne dinner was family, but apparently cake had expanded. Or dinner had. Marianne was not sure. The boys were introduced quickly. "This is Mason," Evan said, pointing to the taller one with a missing front tooth. "And that's Tyler. He's allergic to peanuts but not tree nuts, right?" Tyler nodded with great seriousness. "Not almonds." Marianne smiled. "Good to know." Mason looked at her lunch bag. "What's in there?" "Mason," Claire said from the kitchen. "It's just my dinner," Marianne said. "Why do you have different dinner?" Evan's head came up fast. Marianne opened her mouth, then closed it. Children asked things adults pretended not to notice. That was one of their more difficult habits. "I have to watch what I eat," she said. "My grandpa has diabetes," Mason said. "He has to do that." "I don't have diabetes." "Oh." Claire set a bowl of salad on the table a little too firmly. "Everybody sit." The boy sat. Evan took the chair with the balloon. Claire took the seat nearest the kitchen so she could get up easily. Marianne opened her lunch bag under the table, hoping the zipper would be quiet. It was not. The stuck corner caught, then released with a scratch. Evan looked down at the sound. Marianne pulled out the container and placed it beside her plate. The pizza grease had already started to darken the cardboard box. The smell filled the table. Cheese, tomato sauce, warm bread, pepperoni. It was the smell of every child's birthday. It was also sodium, saturated fat, processed meat, late eating, thirst at midnight. Claire handed out slices. "Mom, do you want salad?" she asked. "What dressing?" "Balsamic." "Is it bottled?" Claire paused. "Yes." "No, thank you. I can give it to you without dressing." Marianne looked at the salad. Mixed greens, cherry tomatoes, cucumber. Possibly washed. Probably washed. Claire was not careless. But bagged lettuce had recalls sometimes. Not often, but sometimes. "I'm all right." Claire nodded. Mason took 2 slices. Tyler peeled cheese off his and ate it separately. Evan picked up his pizza, then put it down again. "You can eat it," Marianne said. He looked startled. "I know. I just meant it's your birthday." "Yeah." Claire sat down with her own slice. "Okay, birthday guy, best part of being 10 so far?" Evan shrugged, but he smiled a little. "I've only been 10 since this morning." "Still counts," Claire said. "Presents," Mason said. "That's not deep enough," Tyler said. Claire laughed. "Deep answers only at this table." Marianne reached for the lemon wedge in her container and squeezed it over the chicken. A seed fell onto the rice. She picked it out with the edge of her fork. "You can say presents," Claire told Evan. Evan looked at Marianne, then back at his plate. "Maybe having people over." "That's a good one," Claire said. Marianne cut her chicken into small pieces. It had gone a little dry from reheating. She chewed slowly. Across from her, Evan took a bite of pizza and watched her while pretending not to. She wanted to tell him not to worry, but saying that would mean he had been worrying. The boys talked about a video game Marianne did not know. Claire asked questions in the way adults did when they were trying to keep boys from shouting over food. Marianne listened, smiling when appropriate, though she could feel the container beside her plate becoming its own object in the room. At one point, Mason reached for another slice and knocked over his cup. Water spread across the table. Tyler jumped back. Evan grabbed napkins. Claire stood quickly. "It's fine," Claire said. "Just water." Marianne's hand had gone to her purse before she realized it. Her blood pressure cuff was not there. She had left it at home, on purpose. "Good. Very good." She took her hand away. Evan saw. Only Evan. His face changed just enough. After dinner, the boys moved to the family room for a game while Claire cleared plates. Marianne stood to help. "I've got it," Claire said. "I can carry plates." "I know, I've got it." There it was again. The carefulness. The soft barrier around ordinary tasks. Marianne picked up 2 paper plates anyway. Claire looked at them in her hand. "Mom, they're paper." "I know. I can manage paper." Claire's face flushed. "I didn't say you couldn't." Marianne carried the plates to the trash can. The room tilted very slightly when she bent to drop them in. Not much. A brief shift, like the floor had moved half an inch to the right and come back. She straightened slowly. Fine. Not enough to mention. She had eaten. She had water. It was warm in the house because of children running in and out of the backyard, but not hot. She was not dizzy. Not really. Claire's hand appeared near her elbow. Marianne stepped away before Claire touched her. "I'm fine." I didn't say anything. "You were about to." Claire lowered her hand. From the family room, Evan called, "Mom, can we do cake now?" "In a minute," Claire answered, still looking at Marianne. Cake required candles. Candles required singing. Singing was fine. Noise was fine. Standing around while people watched her refuse cake would be less fine. Marianne sat before Claire could suggest it. The cake was brought to the table under its clear plastic lid. The boys gathered around, loud again. Claire found candles in a junk drawer. One blue, one silver, shaped like a number 10 because the package of thin candles had vanished somehow. "Do we need both?" Evan asked. "Yes," Claire said. "You only turn 10 once." Tyler said, "Unless there's a time machine." Mason said, "Then you could get more presents." Evan laughed. The sound was quick and open. For a second, Marianne saw him younger, sitting cross-legged on her living room carpet with a stack of cards between them, laughing so hard he fell sideways. Her chest ached. Not pain, not cardiac, just ache. Claire lit the candles. Everyone sang. Marianne sang too, quietly, staying just under the others. Evan looked embarrassed and pleased. When he blew out the candles, Tyler cheered too loudly and Mason clapped next to Marianne's ear. She kept her smile in place. Claire cut the cake. Large pieces for the boys, smaller for the adults. She put one slice on a rocket plate and set it in front of Marianne without looking at her too directly. Marianne stared at it. White frosting, blue border, yellow cake. The corner piece, with a thick line of frosting along 2 sides. Claire had given her a small piece. A considered piece? That made it harder. "I'll pass," Marianne said. Evan looked up. Claire's hand paused over the cake server. "You don't have to eat all of it," she said. "I know." "Or any of it," Claire added quickly. "Then why put it in front of me?" Claire's mouth closed. The boys quieted, not completely, but enough. Evan pushed his fork through his cake and did not lift it. Marianne wished, suddenly and sharply, that Claire had never placed the plate there. Then she wished Claire had insisted. Then she wished there were no cake, no table, no bright paper plates, no 3 children waiting to learn what kind of thing an old woman's body had made of a birthday. "I'm just being careful," Marianne said. No one answered. Evan looked at the cake in front of her. "Grandma, you don't have to come if it makes you sick." The words were not cruel. That was why they hurt. Mason looked at Evan. Tyler looked at Claire. Claire looked down at the cake server as if it had become complicated. Marianne folded her napkin once. "I'm not sick." "I know," Evan said quickly. "I just mean if it's hard." "It's not hard. You brought different food." Claire said, "Evan?" He turned red. "I didn't mean..." "It's fine," Marianne said. Her voice sounded almost normal. Almost. "I'm fine." She stood because sitting there with the untouched cake in front of her had become unbearable. "I'll help clean up." "Mom, no, sit," Claire said. "I said I'll help." She picked up the cake plate first, her own. The frosting shifted. A smear of blue marked the paper. Claire reached toward her. "I can get that." Marianne took another step. The floor moved. Not dramatically, not like falling. Just a small swing of the room, left and back, as if she had stepped onto a boat she had not known was there. She stopped. The plate tilted. Claire was beside her at once. "Mom." "I'm fine." "Put the plate down." I said Claire's hand closed around her forearm. Marianne saw Evan watching. Not worried only, scared. The 2 boys had gone silent. Marianne pulled her arm away. Too hard. Claire's hand dropped. The cake plate slipped from Marianne's other hand and landed frosting side, down on the tile with a soft, ridiculous smack. For 1 second, nobody moved. Blue frosting spread under the edge of the plate. Mason whispered, "Oh." Claire's face had gone pale in a way Marianne had not seen since the hospital. "Mom," she said low. Marianne bent to pick up the plate, then stopped because bending would be a mistake, and because everyone knew it. That was worse than the dizziness. Everyone knew. "I'll get it," Claire said. Her voice was careful again, too careful. Marianne stepped back. I need to go. Mom, wait. I'm tired. Just sit for a minute. I don't want to sit. Please. The word came out almost under Claire's breath. Marianne looked at Evan. His fork still rested in his cake. He looked smaller than 10 now, smaller than he had at the door. His mouth was pressed tight, and his eyes kept moving from Marianne's face to the blue frosting on the floor. I'm sorry about the plate, Marianne said. It's okay, Evan whispered. I'll call you tomorrow. He nodded. Claire followed Marianne to the entryway. Not touching, never touching now, apparently. That was what they had become. Two people measuring the distance of a hand. At the door, Claire said, Let me drive you. No, you got dizzy. I stood up too fast. You barely ate. I ate my dinner. Mom. Marianne turned so sharply Claire stopped. Dumb. Claire's lips pressed together. Behind her in the dining area, the boys had begun talking again in low voices. Not normal voices. Polite voices. The kind children used when adults had made a room strange. Marianne opened the door. Heat pressed in from outside, evening warm and dusty. The sky over the houses had turned a flat, pale pink. Her car waited at the curb, exactly where she had left it. Claire stepped onto the porch behind her. At least text me when you get home. I will. Please actually do it. Marianne wanted to say something cutting. Something about codes, brochures, locked doors, being managed. The words rose, arranged themselves, and tired her before she could use them. I will, she said again. She walked down the path carefully, not slowly enough to look weak, not quickly enough to stumble. At the curb, she opened the car door and set her purse inside. She could hear Claire still on the porch. She could also hear Evan's voice from inside the house, muffled through the open door. Did I make her worse? The question came softly, not meant for Marianne. Claire answered too quietly for Marianne to hear. Marianne stood with one hand on the car door. The evening heat gathered under her blouse. Somewhere down the block, a sprinkler ticked against gravel, hitting nothing green. She got into the car, closed the door, and sat without starting the engine until the porch light blurred slightly through the windshield. Later, after the boys were gone, and Evan had gone to his room with his gifts unopened in a pile beside the bed, Claire stood alone in the kitchen with a damp paper towel in her hand. The blue frosting had taken 3 passes to lift from the tile. A faint stain remained in the grout. On the island, Evan's school folder lay half open beneath a stack of birthday cards. Claire picked it up to move it, and a sheet of lined paper slipped out. At the top, in Evan's careful classroom handwriting, was the prompt. Someone I miss. Claire knew she should not read it. She read the first line anyway. I miss my grandma before she got scared. Claire stood there with the paper in one hand, the damp towel in the other, while the house settled into the quiet after a party that had ended too early. The thing he wrote. Marianne chose the puzzle book because it did not make noise. That was not the first reason. The first reason was that Evan liked puzzles, or he used to. Word searches in the car, mazes on restaurant placemats. Those little grid puzzles where you figured out which person owned which pet based on clues that sounded simple until they were not. She had stood in the aisle at Target for 14 minutes, reading the backs of 5 different books, while people moved around her with carts and children and the careless speed of healthy errands. Some books had covers too bright, too silly. Some had jokes about gross things. One had a monster on the front. Not frightening exactly, but there was no reason to bring monsters into a house when the child had just watched his grandmother drop cake on the floor. She picked the one with a blue cover and a small drawing of a compass. Brain games for kids. The word brain made her pause. Then she told herself not to be ridiculous and put it in the basket. At home, she wrapped it in plain green tissue paper left over from Christmas and slid it into a small gift bag. No ribbon. Ribbon made things look like an occasion, and this was not an occasion. This was just something she was bringing by. A small thing. A normal grandmother thing. A normal grandmother would probably have brought leftover cake or a toy from a noisy store or a card with $10 inside. A normal grandmother might have eaten the cake when it was offered. Marianne lifted the gift bag from the kitchen counter, then set it back down and checked the refrigerator. The sheets were still there. Blood pressure, heart rate, sodium, water, sleep, walking. The incident sheet had been replaced again after Evan's birthday dinner. The new one had fewer details. No names, no phrases that could be taken wrong. It looked cleaner, more medical, less personal. Brief lightheadedness after standing, resolved quickly. That was accurate. It was not complete. She closed the refrigerator door before she could add anything. The drive to Claire's house felt shorter without traffic and longer without a reason she could defend. She had not called first. Calling first would have given Claire a chance to say it was not a good time, And then Marianne would have had to decide whether that meant Claire was angry, busy, protecting Evan, or all three. She arrived at 3:37, a terrible time. Too late for lunch, too early for dinner. The hour when houses were neither ready nor finished with anything. Claire's car was in the driveway. Evan's bike lay on its side near the garage. One handlebar turned into the gravel. Marianne looked at it for a moment before turning off the engine. Before March, she would have put it upright on her way in and reminded Evan not to leave it where someone could trip. Now she wondered if touching it would be received as criticism, or worse, concern. She left it alone. The porch light was off. The doorbell made its soft chime inside. Footsteps came, not fast. Claire opened the door. She had on leggings, a faded Arizona State t-shirt, and no makeup. Her hair was pulled into a knot that had started to loosen. She looked surprised first, then guarded, then guilty for being guarded. "Mom, hi, is everything okay?" The question came too quickly. Marianne smiled as if she had not noticed. "Everything's fine, I was nearby." "You were nearby? At Target?" Claire looked past her toward the driveway, then back. "Oh, I brought something for Evan." Marianne lifted the gift bag. Claire's eyes went to it, then to Marianne's face. "That's nice. It's nothing big." "Okay." Neither of them moved for half a second. Then Claire stepped back. "Come in." The house was quieter than it had been on Saturday. No boys running, no balloons, no pizza boxes, no frosting underfoot. The silver 10 balloon still floated in the corner of the dining room, lower now, tired from holding itself up. One of its edges brushed the wall whenever the air conditioner came on. Marianne saw the spot on the tile where the cake had fallen. It was clean. Of course it was clean. Still, she saw it. Claire noticed where she was looking and said nothing. That made it worse. "Is Evan home?" Marianne asked. "In his room." "Homework?" "Sort of." Marianne held the gift bag with both hands. "I don't want to interrupt." Claire closed the door. "He can come out." The way she said it made Marianne look at her. Can, not will. Claire called down the hallway. "Ev, Grandma's here." There was a pause long enough for Marianne to feel the shape of it. Then a door opened. Evan came down the hall in gray shorts and a t-shirt with a faded camp logo. His hair stuck up in the back. He was barefoot and one sock hung half out of his pocket for no reason Marianne could imagine. He stopped near the kitchen entrance. "Hi, Grandma." "Hi, sweetheart." He did not come close enough for a hug. Marianne lifted the bag. "I saw this and thought of you." He looked at Claire first. That small glance went through Marianne more sharply than anything he could have said. Claire's face barely changed. "Go ahead." Evan came forward and took the bag carefully, by the handles, not touching Marianne's hand. "Thanks. It's just a puzzle book. For when you're bored." "I like puzzles." "I know." He pulled the tissue aside and looked inside. His face did brighten then. Not fully, but enough that Marianne saw the boy from before. The one who had once shouted from her living room floor because he had found a hidden word diagonally backward. "This is cool," he said. "You don't have to do it now. I might later." A normal grandmother would ask about school, ask about birthday gifts, ask if he had played with the cards yet. Marianne had those questions ready. They sat in her mouth like pills. "Did you open the cards?" she asked. "Yeah." "Were they all right?" "They're good. They're slippery. They'll get easier after a few games." He nodded. Claire stood near the entry table, watching them in a way she was trying to hide. Marianne could feel her there. Not interfering, not relaxing. Evan shifted the bag from one hand to the other. "I have math," he said. "Oh, of course. But thanks." "You're welcome." He started to go, then stopped. "Are you feeling better?" The question was soft. Marianne did not know where to put it. Claire looked down. "I'm fine," Marianne said. Evan nodded like a polite guest. "Good." Then he went back down the hall with the gift bag, and his door closed. Not slammed. Closed. Marianne stood in the entryway with her purse still on her shoulder. Claire rubbed one thumb along the edge of the table where the mail sat. "He's had a weird couple days." I didn't mean to make it weird. "I know." That was not forgiveness. It was not accusation either. Claire walked toward the kitchen. "Do you want water?" "No, thank you." "Tea?" "No." "Okay." Marianne followed because staying in the entryway felt like being left at the door. The kitchen was ordinary in a way that made her feel more out of place. A cereal bowl in the sink. A sponge squeezed crookedly by the faucet. A school folder, open on the island. A grocery list written on the back of an envelope. Claire's laptop at one end of the counter, asleep but not closed. Real life, unarranged. Marianne set her purse on the back of a chair, then immediately picked it up again. She did not know how long she was staying. Claire opened a cabinet and took out a glass for herself. "How are you feeling?" "You asked me that at the door. You said everything was fine. And now, Claire filled the glass from the refrigerator dispenser. Now I'm asking again. Marianne looked toward the hallway. In case Evan hears? Claire stopped with the glass half full. That's not fair. No, I suppose not. The dispenser clicked off. Claire drank before answering, as if water might make her more patient. I don't want to fight, she said. Neither do I. Then maybe we could not start with that. Marianne nodded once. They stood in the kitchen with the refrigerator humming, both of them looking at different safe places. Claire touched the school folder on the island and began stacking papers into it. I meant to call you today. I was going to call you too. Claire gave her a look. Marianne almost smiled, eventually. That almost became a laugh between them. Not quite. It came close enough to show both of them where laughter used to be. Claire slid a worksheet into the folder. Saturday scared him. I know. The words were out before Marianne had decided whether she could afford them. Claire looked at her. Marianne adjusted her purse strap. I assumed. He thought he caused it. He didn't. I know that. I would never want him to think that. Then you might have to tell him. Marianne looked toward the hallway again. The door to Evan's room stayed shut. I brought the book. That's not the same thing. It's a start. Claire's mouth tightened, but she did not argue. The restraint made Marianne defensive. He doesn't need a big conversation. He might need something. He is 10. Yes, he's 10. That's why when adults go quiet, he fills it in himself. Marianne looked at her daughter. There were many things she could have said. That Claire was making this too serious. That children forgot faster than adults. That she had apologized for the plate. That she had not asked Evan to worry. That she had not asked for any of this. Instead, she said, I'll talk to him next time. Claire waited. Marianne knew what she was waiting for. A promise. A real one. Marianne did not give it. Claire gathered the remaining papers and turned toward the hallway. I'm going to put these in his backpack before I forget. I can wait. I'll just be a second. Claire left the folder on the island while she took a few papers with her. The house shifted in her absence. Smaller sounds came forward. The refrigerator cycling on. The soft thump of a drawer closing somewhere. A boy's voice murmuring behind a door. Maybe reading to himself or talking into a game. Marianne stood at the island. She did not mean to look. That was what she would have said if anyone asked. She did not move the folder. She did not open anything. The top sheet had slid halfway out when Claire removed the others. It rested there, face up, the lines slightly crooked. At the top, in printed classroom font, was the prompt. Someone I miss. Below it, in Evan's careful handwriting. I miss my grandma before she got scared. Marianne's eyes stayed on the sentence. For a second, she did not read it as words. She saw only the shape of his handwriting. The tall M. The uneven spacing. The way he pressed harder on scared, making the pencil darker there. Then the sentence arrived. I miss my grandma before she got scared. Before. As if there had been two of her. One before March. One after. The after one stood in Claire's kitchen with her purse on her shoulder and a gift she had used instead of an apology. The house felt suddenly too full of air. From down the hallway, Claire said something to Evan. Evan answered, okay, in the bored voice of a child who had no idea his sentence was sitting open on the kitchen island like a small, clean wound. Marianne reached toward the paper, then stopped. She should not have seen it. She should turn away. She should call out to Claire and say the folder was open. She should ask Evan what he meant. She should say something kind, something light. I'm still here, honey. Grandma just had a rough patch. I'll try. But she could not make herself into the kind of woman who said, I'll try in someone else's kitchen, with the words before she got scared staring at her. Claire's footsteps returned. Marianne turned slightly toward the sink as if she had only been looking out the window above it. Claire came in with a small pile of sharpened pencils in one hand. Sorry, he had somehow put 3 loose papers inside a library book. That sounds like him. Claire set the pencils on the island, then saw the folder. Her hand went to it. Too late. Her eyes flicked to Marianne's face. Marianne kept her own face still. Claire slid the paper fully into the folder and closed it. Neither of them spoke for a moment. The silver balloon brushed the dining room wall, a soft, metallic whisper. I should go, Marianne said. Claire looked at the clock on the microwave. You just got here. I don't want to get into traffic. It's 4 o'clock. School traffic. Mom, I'm tired. That was true enough, not the whole truth, a usable piece. Claire's expression changed. Concern arrived first, then suspicion behind it. Do you feel dizzy? No. Are you sure? Yes. Claire looked at the folder again, then back at her. Marianne picked up her purse. Tell Evan I'm glad he liked the book. You can tell him. He's doing homework. He can come out. No, don't interrupt him. Claire did not move. Marianne walked toward the entryway. Behind her, Claire said, Mom, Marianne stopped. I didn't show that to you because I wanted to hurt you. Marianne kept her hand on the door frame. I know. I wasn't hiding it either. I just didn't know what to do with it. That makes two of us. The answer came out before Marianne could make it more careful. Claire said nothing. Marianne opened the front door. Heat lay against the porch, softer now than afternoon but still present, held in the concrete and stucco. She stepped outside. Text me when you get home, Claire said. Marianne almost said, you keep saying that as if I'm 16, but she was very tired of being sharp. I will. She drove home with the radio off. At the first light, she checked her left hand on the steering wheel. Fingers moving. Grip even. No numbness. At the second light, she realized she had been holding her jaw tight enough to make one side of her face ache. She opened her mouth slightly, then closed it when the light changed. The sentence rode with her. I miss my grandma before she got scared. At home, she parked in the garage and sat until the automatic door closed behind her. The motor hummed overhead, then stopped. The garage became dim and hot, full of stored things. Paper towels from Costco, holiday bins, the stepladder Walter had labeled with black marker because he labeled everything. Evan's old booster seat she had never returned to Claire. She took the booster seat down last summer to make room and then put it back. No reason. Just not yet. Inside, the house received her without questions. The refrigerator sheets waited in the kitchen. For a long time, Marianne stood in front of them. Blood pressure, heart rate, sodium, water, sleep, walking, incidents. The pages looked different now. Not wrong, not exactly, but exposed. Childish, almost, in their neatness. Like she had built a little wall out of paper and expected everyone she loved to stand comfortably outside it. She reached for the incident sheet first. Her finger stopped on the corner. Then she pulled it free. The magnet snapped back against the refrigerator with a small click. She removed heart rate next, then sodium. She left blood pressure. Dr. Patel had told her to check once a day. That was reasonable. That was medical. That was not fear. She left water and walking. After a moment, she removed sleep too. The refrigerator door looked bare in patches where the papers had been. The old magnets seemed suddenly too bright, as if they had been waiting years to be seen again. Sedona. Flagstaff. San Diego. Flagstaff caught her eye. She took that magnet down and set it on the counter face down. Then she gathered the removed sheets and carried them to the trash. She held them over the bin. The incident sheet was on top. Brief lightheadedness after standing, resolved quickly. No mention of cake. No mention of Evan. No mention of Claire's hand on her arm or the way she had pulled away as if touch itself were evidence. She folded the pages once. Then, instead of dropping them into the trash, she opened the drawer beneath the placemats. The smaller notebook was inside. Private notes. Things too complicated for categories. Marianne set the folded sheets on top of it. Then she took out the notebook. She told herself it was only until the refrigerator looked less alarming. Until Claire stopped reading everything as a warning sign. Until Evan stopped looking at her like a plate might fall at any moment. She sat at the kitchen table. The house was cooling for evening. The air conditioner had come on. From the vent above the sliding door, a thin breath moved across the room and lifted the corner of a grocery receipt. Marianne opened the notebook to a clean page. She wrote the date. Remove some charts from fridge. She paused. That sounded good. That was something Claire could approve of. A sign of reason. A sign Marianne was willing to adjust. The phone rang. Claire. Marianne looked at the screen. For once, she answered before the second ring. Hi, Claire said, cautious, tired. Just checking that you got home. I'm home. Okay. A pause. Thanks for bringing the book, Claire said. Of course. He started one of the mazes. That's good. Yeah. Neither of them said anything for a moment. Marianne looked at the open notebook. Her pen rested across the page, exactly under the words, remove some charts from fridge. She closed the drawer halfway with her foot, then pushed it fully shut. I took some things down, she said. What things? From the refrigerator. Claire was quiet. You did? Yes. Oh. Marianne could hear Claire trying not to sound too relieved. I thought you might be right, Marianne said. The sentence felt like setting a decoy on the table. Claire's voice softened. I'm glad. I mean, only if you wanted to. I wanted to. That was almost true. Are you okay? Claire asked. Marianne looked at the closed drawer. I'm fine, she said. I took some things down. You were right. Claire breathed out, and Marianne hated the relief in it, even as she had given it to her on purpose. After they hung up, the kitchen felt larger. Marianne sat without moving. Then she opened the drawer again. The notebook waited where she had left it. She pulled it out and wrote below the first line. No dinner, BP better, slight dizziness manageable. She looked at the words for a long time. Then she closed the notebook and placed it in the drawer beneath the placemats, under the folded sheets, where no one would read it unless they were looking for proof. The fall that wasn't a stroke. Marianne was standing in front of the refrigerator with the door open, trying to decide whether broth counted as dinner. The house behind her had gone blue with evening. Not dark yet, not light either. The hour when windows turned reflective and rooms began giving back your own shape. In the glass of the sliding door, she could see herself in pieces. White hair, pale blouse, one hand on the refrigerator handle, the other resting against the counter, as if she had only placed it there casually. She had eaten lunch. A late lunch. Not large, but enough. A boiled egg, half a cup of zucchini, 3 crackers. The crackers had been unnecessary. She had written them down, then crossed them out because they were low sodium, and because not everything had to be a confession. The broth sat on the middle shelf in a glass jar with blue tape across the lid. Unsalted chicken broth, 418. She took it out and set it on the counter. Behind it, the refrigerator looked too clean, too empty in the places where normal food would have been. No takeout containers, no cheese, no leftovers from someone else's kitchen, no cake. The sheets on the refrigerator door had stayed reduced for 3 days. Blood pressure, water, walking. She had left only 3. 3 was reasonable. 3 could not frighten anyone. The rest lived in the drawer beneath the placemats. The smaller notebook did not frighten anyone because no one saw it. Her phone buzzed on the table. For 1 second, she thought it was Claire. It was not. FaceTime from Evan. His name appeared with the picture Claire had taken last summer. Evan squinting under a baseball cap at a splash pad. Water frozen in the air behind him. He looked younger in the picture, or maybe he had been younger. Children changed quickly. Adults changed too, but people pretended not to notice until something broke. Marianne looked at the jar of broth. The phone kept ringing. She wiped her fingers on a towel and tapped accept. Evan's face filled the screen too close at first. Forehead, one eye, part of his nose. Grandma? I'm here. The image shifted. He moved the phone back. He was in his bedroom, lying on his stomach on the carpet, the puzzle book open in front of him. Behind him, a pile of clothes sat on a chair. His desk lamp was on, though the room still had window light. I can't get number 12, he said. Not hello, not how are you. For a moment, Marianne could almost believe they were back inside something ordinary. Which one is number 12? The maze with the bridges, I think they printed it wrong. They probably didn't. They might have. Books can have mistakes. That is true. She smiled a little. It felt unfamiliar and easy at the same time. Can you show me? He turned the phone toward the page, but moved it too fast. The maze blurred, blue lines and white gaps swimming across the screen. Slowly, she said. I am. You are not? I'm trying. The page steadied. Marianne leaned closer, bracing one hand on the counter. The broth jar sat near her wrist, cold from the refrigerator. A ring of moisture forming beneath it. I see, she said. You're trying to get from the lighthouse to the boat? Yeah, but this bridge doesn't go anywhere. It may go somewhere later. That's not helpful. It is if you're patient. Evan made a face. That's what adults say when they don't know. I know plenty. Then solve it. The corner of his mouth lifted. There, a small gift. Not forgiveness, not before, but something. Marianne turned the phone slightly so she could see better. The kitchen light above her flickered once before settling. She had been meaning to replace that bulb, or ask someone to replace it. No, she could replace it. It was only above the sink. The step stool was in the pantry. She traced the maze on the screen with one finger in the air, not touching the phone. Go back to the second bridge. I did. No, the second one from the top. This one? No, sweetheart, the one above it. He moved the pencil. There? Yes, now go left. Left gets blocked. Only if you go down first. Oh, his pencil scratched against paper. Marianne could hear it through the phone, a small, dry sound that reminded her of homework at her own kitchen table years ago. Claire bent over fractions, hair falling into her face. Evan followed the path. Wait, he said. That works? Of course it works. You didn't have to say it like that. Like what? Like Grandma. The word landed softly. Not the way Scared had. Just Grandma. Marianne shifted her weight, and the kitchen moved. It was not much at first. A brief loosening under her feet, as if the tile had turned slick. She caught herself with her palm against the counter. The phone image tilted. Evan's ceiling appeared, then his face again. Grandma? I'm fine, the words came out automatically. You moved weird. I dropped the phone a little. You didn't drop it. No, I didn't. I said a little. That made no sense. She heard it after she said it. The room steadied, mostly. She should sit down. She would sit down, calmly, in a second. Not because anything was wrong, because she had been standing too long, because the house was warm, because she had not yet had dinner, because broth was on the counter and the refrigerator door was still open, sending cold air over her knees. The refrigerator began beeping. Door open. Evan looked off screen. Like, what's that? What's that? The fridge. Why? I left it open. Are you cooking? Warming broth. Oh. She tried to close the refrigerator with her hip while holding the phone. The door resisted because the jar shelf was not aligned. She pushed again. The beep stopped. For one moment, she felt successful. Then the floor dipped. Not spun, not the room-whirling thing people described. No black curtain, no face drooping, no arm weakness, no speech trouble. Just a sudden draining from the top of her head downward, like someone had opened a small valve inside her. She set the phone on the counter too quickly. Evan's face tipped sideways against the backsplash. Grandma? I'm here. Her voice sounded normal. Good. She lowered herself onto the kitchen chair. That was the plan. Except the chair was farther than she thought. Her hand found the edge of the table, then slid. The placemat shifted under her palm. She did not fall so much as sit badly, missing the chair and landing first against the cabinet, then onto the floor with one hip and both hands. The sound was small. A bump, a scrape. The phone sliding against the counter. The jar of broth remained upright. That seemed important. Marianne sat on the tile back against the lower cabinet, one knee bent, one leg stretched out awkwardly in front of her. Exactly like a thing she would never allow Claire to imagine. For a second, she was more annoyed than afraid. The tile was cold through her pants. A drawer handle pressed into her shoulder blade. The underside of the table looked dusty near one leg. She had cleaned yesterday. Not there, apparently. Grandma? Evan's voice had changed. Marianne reached for the phone. It was still on the counter, beyond the chair leg. I'm okay, she said louder. Where are you? In the kitchen. I can't see you. I know, I'm picking up the phone. She tried to push herself up. Her left hand worked. Her right hand worked. Both legs moved, face normal, speech normal. Not a stroke. The relief came with irritation behind it. Not a stroke, and still she was on the floor. She got one knee under her, then stopped because the room gave another small shift. Not enough to count, but enough to warn. Grandma, are you on the floor? No. The lie arrived before she could stop it. Then she closed her eyes. Yes, she said, but I'm fine. You're on the floor? I sat down. On the floor? Evan. I'm calling Mom. No. The word came too sharp. The silence after it was worse. Marianne softened her voice. No, sweetheart. Don't bother her. I just got lightheaded for a second. You said you weren't on the floor. I didn't want you to worry. I am worried. Of course he was. His voice had gone thin, the way Claire's used to when she was small and trying not to cry. Marianne reached again for the phone. Her fingertips brushed the edge, but pushed it farther instead of closer. The phone slid, caught against the toaster, and Evan's face tilted toward the ceiling. Grandma, I'm calling her. Evan listened to me, but the screen went small. His face disappeared. The call ended. The kitchen filled with quiet. Not hospital quiet, not yet. House quiet. The refrigerator hummed. The air conditioner breathed through the vent. Somewhere inside the wall, a pipe gave a small knock as if someone had tapped once from the other side. Marianne stayed on the floor. She took inventory. Normal. Both moving. Normal. Clear enough. Hip sore, no sharpness. Not severe. Steady. Not stroke. Not emergency. Not something Claire needed to use. Her phone began ringing on the counter. Claire. Marianne looked up at it. Too high. It kept ringing. She could pull the chair closer, use the seat, stand slowly, answer and tell Claire not to come, or not answer. If she did not answer, Claire would come faster. If she answered, Claire would hear something. She always heard something. Breathing. Pause, chair scrape, the room in the voice. The ringing stopped, then started again. Claire. Marianne set her palms on the floor and pushed herself up to her knees. The tile pressed hard into both kneecaps. She reached the chair this time and got one hand on the seat. The phone slid again when she grabbed for it. She caught it on the fourth ring. Hello? Mom? Claire's voice was already past hello. Already driving, maybe. Already in motion. I'm fine. Evan called me crying. I'm not surprised, given how you all react. There was a short silence. Marianne regretted it immediately and did not apologize. What happened? Claire asked. I got lightheaded. I sat down. Evan said you were on the floor. I sat down on the floor. Did you fall? No. Did you hit your head? No. Are you weak on one side? No. Can you smile? Claire, can you? Marianne bared her teeth at the empty kitchen like an idiot. Yes. Say something normal. I'm saying something normal. Mom. The refrigerator was open. I was helping Evan with a maze. I got lightheaded. I sat down. I'm fine. Are you still on the floor? Marianne looked at the chair beside her. No. Not technically. She was on her knees. Mom. I am getting up. Don't. Stay where you are. I'm coming. No, you're not. I'm already in the car. Marianne closed her eyes. Of course. Claire, do not turn this into... I'm not turning it into anything. You are. Put the phone on speaker and do not get up until I get there. I don't need you here. Then you can be annoyed at me in person. The line stayed open. Claire did not hang up. That was how the next 14 minutes happened, with Claire's car noise faint through the speaker and Marianne sitting first on the floor, then on the chair because she refused to be found there, like a staged accident. She moved slowly, one step at a time, narrating none of it. Claire asked twice if she was still on the floor. Marianne said, I'm sitting, which was true by then. She drank water. She did not take her blood pressure. She wanted to. The cuff was on the counter. She could see the edge of the case from where she sat. If she took it now, Claire would walk in and see the number, and then the number would belong to both of them. So she left it. When Claire arrived, the garage door did not open. Of course it did not. She did not have the code. The doorbell rang. Then her phone, still on speaker, carried Claire's voice from outside the front door and through the small device at the same time. Mom, open the door. Marianne stood too quickly, then sat back down. A small mistake. Nothing more. I'm coming. No, tell me how to get in. No. Mom. I can open my own door. She rose again, slower, and walked to the front hall. Her hip hurt now. Not badly. Enough to make her aware of each step. She unlocked the door. Claire stood on the porch in her work pants and a t-shirt she must have changed into after getting home. Her hair was pulled back badly, loose at one side. She had Evan's phone in one hand and her own in the other, as if she had left the house, holding whatever panic handed her. Behind her, the street was purple with evening. Claire looked at Marianne from head to foot. Move your arms. No. Mom. I opened the door. Both arms. Marianne lifted both arms shoulder high. Smile. This is ridiculous. Smile. Marianne gave her a tight smile. Claire's face did not relax. Say, the sky is blue. The sky is blue. You're standing on my porch. My hip hurts because I sat down badly. Come in if you're coming in. Claire stepped inside. The house seemed to change the moment she crossed the threshold. Not because she did anything, because now the space had a witness. She followed Marianne to the kitchen without touching her. That restraint was not kindness anymore, it was effort. On the counter, the broth jar still sat sweating in its ring of water. The refrigerator was closed. The phone lay near the toaster. The blood pressure cuff case was exactly where Marianne had left it. Claire saw all of it. Did you eat dinner? She asked. It's there. That's broth. I was going to heat it. That's not dinner. It was going to be part of dinner. What else? Marianne did not answer. Claire opened the refrigerator. Marianne said, please don't. Claire stood with one hand on the door. Zucchini egg whites, broth, measured blueberries, 2 glass containers of chicken, one of them still full from yesterday. Claire closed the door carefully. That carefulness was more frightening than if she had slammed it. Have you been skipping meals? Claire asked. No. Mom. No. Claire's eyes went to the reduced refrigerator papers. You took the charts down. You wanted me to. I didn't want you to hide things. I'm not hiding things. Claire looked toward the drawer beneath the placemats. Marianne's body reacted before she could stop it. A small shift of weight. A glance too quick. Claire saw. Where are they? What? The things you took down. Thrown away. Claire opened the drawer. Don't! The word came out too late. Claire pulled it open. The visit summary was there. The folded sheets, the smaller notebook beneath them. For 1 second, Claire did not touch anything. Then she lifted the notebook. Marianne reached for it. Claire held it away. No, that is private. You were on the floor and told Evan not to call me. I told him not to worry you. He was crying. That was not my intention. Claire opened the notebook. Marianne felt something inside her go cold and hot at the same time. Claire. No dinner, BP better, slight dizziness manageable, Claire read. The words sounded obscene in her daughter's mouth. Claire turned the page back. Remove some charts from fridge. She looked up. You told me I was right. You were. You moved it to a drawer. I made the refrigerator less upsetting. For me? For everyone. For Evan? Marianne looked away. Claire closed the notebook, but did not give it back. How long have you been dizzy? I'm not dizzy. I was lightheaded. How long? It happens sometimes. People get lightheaded. When they don't eat? Yes. You are not my doctor. No, Claire said. Apparently, I'm not even your emergency contact anymore, unless you approve the emergency first. Marianne gripped the back of the kitchen chair. That is unfair. Claire laughed once, short and broken. Good, great. We're both unfair. The room held them. The broth jar had left a puddle on the counter. A slow line of condensation moved toward the edge. Claire set the notebook on the table. You are not staying here alone tonight. Marianne stared at her. There it was. Not a suggestion, not a question, not help. A sentence with a locked door inside it. No, Mom. No. You can come to my house or I can stay here. No. You were on the floor. I did not fall. Evan saw you. I did not ask him to call you. That is not the part you should be defending. Marianne pushed the chair back with more force than she meant to. It scraped against the tile. Claire did not flinch. Good, she had gotten harder. Or Marianne had made her harder. There was no useful difference. I'm not a child, Marianne said. I know. Do you? Yes. Then stop giving orders. I don't know what else to do. The sentence broke through too plainly. Claire looked as if she hated having said it. Marianne looked at her daughter and saw not the woman with the brochure, not the woman at the doctor's office, not even the mother holding Evan behind a boundary. She saw Claire at 39, exhausted in the same kitchen where she had once eaten grilled cheese after school, now standing with a notebook she had not wanted to read, and a fear she could not put down. For 1 second, Marianne wanted to sit, not from dizziness, from the weight of being loved this badly. Then she saw the notebook on the table again. Her private hand, her private numbers, her private shame. You know what you're doing? Marianne asked. Claire wiped at one eye with the heel of her hand. I'm trying to keep you alive. No, you're making a record. That's not Yes, it is. The food, the notes, the fall that wasn't a fall, the door code, the doctor, the brochure. Claire went still. Marianne had not meant to bring up the brochure. It came by itself because it had never left the room. Claire's voice dropped. That was not a plan. It will be after tonight. No, you'll write it all down in your head. She skipped dinner. She got dizzy. She was on the floor. She lied. She changed the code. She needs supervision. Stop. You'll call it safety. Stop. You'll call it help? I said stop. Claire's voice cracked across the kitchen. The refrigerator hummed on. Marianne's hip hurt. Her mouth was dry. She should have eaten. She knew that now with an irritated, useless clarity. She should have poured the broth, added chicken, sat down before answering Evan. She should have called Claire herself. She should have done any number of sensible things that were only obvious after the sensible moment had passed. Claire reached for the chair and sat down hard. For the first time since she arrived, she looked less like someone taking charge than someone who had run out of charge to take. I can't get another call like that, she said. Marianne looked at her. Claire stared at the table, at the notebook, at the thin scratch in the wood Walter had made years ago dragging a toolbox through the kitchen, even after Marianne told him not to. I can't hear Evan say you're on the floor and not know if he's watching you die, Claire said. The words were too much, too direct, not like Claire. Or maybe exactly like Claire when all the carefulness burned off. Marianne sat across from her slowly. I wasn't dying? I didn't know that. I knew. No, you didn't. Marianne opened her mouth. Claire looked up then. You didn't. You guessed. You checked your face, your hands, whatever you checked. And maybe you were right this time, but you were on the floor and you told a 10-year-old not to call me. Marianne looked down at her own hands. They lay on the table, old and capable and thinner than they had been in March. The skin over the knuckles looked loose in the kitchen light. I didn't want to scare him. Claire's laugh had no humor. You did. That one landed because there was nowhere to put it. For a while, neither of them spoke. Outside, a car passed. Its headlights moved across the front window and disappeared. Claire pushed the notebook toward Marianne, not all the way. I'm staying tonight, she said. No. Then you're coming with me. No. Mom, this is not negotiable. Marianne looked up. The phrase should have made her angry. It did, but beneath it was something else. Deeper, more frightening. If she said yes once, what happened next time? If she let Claire stay after one bad evening, would Claire come tomorrow with a bag? Would she call Dr. Patel? Would she call a social worker? Would she bring back the brochure? Would Evan's birthday become evidence? Would the garage code become evidence? Would every quiet dinner, every skipped lunch, every notebook line become a brick in the argument that Marianne Wells could not be trusted with Marianne Wells? She placed one hand on the notebook. I survived the stroke, she said. Claire froze. The sentence had surprised Marianne too. She had never called it that, not aloud. Tia was safer. Mini-stroke was what people said so they could keep smiling. But now the smaller word would not do. Claire stared at her. Marianne slid the notebook closer. I survived the stroke, she said again, quieter. I don't know if I'll survive being your responsibility. Claire's face changed. Not anger, not relief. Something stopped. For the first time all evening, she did not answer quickly. Marianne lowered her eyes to the table. Between them lay the notebook, the phone, the water glass, and the small silver garage key Claire had set down without noticing when she came in. It caught the overhead light and held it, bright and useless, while neither of them reached for it. The safe thing. Claire did not answer right away. She sat across from Marianne at the kitchen table with both hands flat on either side of the notebook, as if the table had started moving, and she was trying to hold it still. The overhead light made everything too clear. The water ring from the broth jar on the counter, the corner of the doctor's visit summary sticking out beneath the placemats. The phone between them, screen black now. The small silver key Claire had dropped on the table without noticing. Marianne's last words stayed in the room. I survived the stroke. I don't know if I'll survive being your responsibility. She had not meant to say them. Not like that. Not with stroke naked in the sentence, stripped of all the softer names people had used to make it less frightening. Claire looked at her for a long time. Then she said, I don't want you to be my responsibility. The sentence should have hurt. It did, but not in the way Marianne expected. Claire's voice was low, rough from the call, from the drive, from whatever she had had to say to Evan before leaving him at home. She was not saying it like a daughter trying to escape. She was saying it like someone ashamed of the word itself. I want you to be my mom, Claire said. Marianne looked down. The notebook lay between them, closed now. Her private handwriting hidden again, though not protected. Not anymore. Claire wiped at her cheek with her thumb, irritated by the tear before it could become anything. But I don't know how to do that when you're lying to me. I didn't lie. Claire stared at her. Marianne adjusted her hand on the notebook. I didn't lie about the stroke signs. You lied to Evan. I didn't want him scared. He was scared. I know that now. No. Claire's voice lifted, then she pulled it back. No, Mom, you knew. That's why you told him not to call me. Marianne's mouth tightened. The refrigerator hummed behind her. There were answers available. She could say Evan was 10 and overreacted. She could say Claire had trained him to worry. She could say sitting on the floor was not the same as falling. She could say she had checked her face, her hands, her speech, and she had known the difference. All of those things were partly true. None of them would help. Claire pushed back from the table and stood. I'm staying tonight. No. Then you're coming to my house. No. I'm not leaving you here after this. This is my home. I know that. You keep saying you know things and then acting like you don't. Claire turned away, pressing one hand to her forehead. She looked toward the front room where the lamps had not been turned on. The living room sat dim. All the familiar shapes softened. The couch Walter had chosen because he said a person should be able to nap on a couch, the narrow bookcase, the framed school photo of Claire at 12, the ceramic bowl Evan had made in second grade and painted orange because, he had said, bowls did not have to be boring. Claire turned back. What do you want me to do? She asked. The question was not gentle. It was tired enough to be dangerous. Marianne sat straighter. I want you to go home. And if something happens tonight, nothing is going to happen tonight. You don't know that. No one knows that. Claire laughed once. That's not reassuring. It's the truth. The truth is you didn't eat dinner, got lightheaded, ended up on the floor, and tried to keep a 10-year-old from calling help. I was not helpless. Claire's face changed at the word. Marianne heard it after she said it. Helpless. There it was, the thing under all the other things. Under the sodium, under the blood pressure cuff, under the garage code and the folded papers, and the notebook in the drawer. Claire came back to the table, but did not sit. I need to call Evan. Now? He's worried. He should be asleep. He won't be. Claire picked up her phone, then paused. I'm putting him on speaker. Marianne looked away. That seems unnecessary. It's not for you. That was plain enough to sting. Claire tapped the screen. The FaceTime tone sounded too cheerful in the kitchen. Marianne folded her hands in her lap and looked at the silver key. Evan answered after the second ring. His face appeared close to the camera, hair damp from a shower, eyes too awake. Mom? Hey, I'm at Grandma's. She's okay. Can I see? Claire glanced at Marianne. Marianne wanted to say no. Instead, she lifted her eyes toward the phone. Claire turned the screen. Evan's face went still when he saw her. Not relieved exactly. Checking, like he had learned from Claire, and Claire had learned from hospitals, and hospitals had learned from fear. Hi, sweetheart, Marianne said. Hi, I'm all right. He nodded but did not smile. There was a pause. Claire shifted the phone back so it showed both of them, awkwardly. Marianne at the table and Claire standing behind one chair. Evan looked down, maybe at his blanket, maybe at his own hands. Did you have to go to the hospital, he asked. No, Marianne said. Are you sure? Yes. He nodded again. Marianne waited for him to say good. He did not. Claire said, Ev, you didn't do anything wrong by calling me. I know. It was the same tone he had used before, the polite one. Claire heard it too. Her shoulders dropped a little. Evan looked at Marianne through the screen. I didn't know if I was supposed to. Supposed to what? Claire asked. Call or not call. He rubbed his eye with his knuckle. Grandma said no. Marianne's hands tightened in her lap. Claire said, "If someone is on the floor and you're scared, you call me. Always." "I know now." "You knew then," Claire said. "That's why you did it." Evan shrugged. Marianne looked at him. The small face on the screen. The boy who had once sat in her living room eating pancakes from a paper plate, syrup on his fingers, asking if kings and cards were related to kings in real life. The boy who now watched adults for signs of danger before he decided whether he was allowed to be happy. "I shouldn't have told you not to," Marianne said. The room changed around the sentence. Claire looked at her. Evan looked up. Marianne kept her eyes on the phone because if she looked at Claire, she might take the words back and make them smaller. "I didn't want to scare you," she said. "But that wasn't fair." Evan swallowed. "Were you scared?" Marianne almost said no. The no was ready. Familiar. It stood at the front of her mouth like a guard. Then she saw his birthday cake on the tile, his fork left in the slice, his face when she pulled away from Claire's hand. "A little," she said. Evan's eyebrows drew together. Claire did not move. "Maybe more than a little," Marianne added, and immediately regretted how exposed the words felt. Evan nodded, not triumphantly, not with relief, just taking the answer in. "I don't want you to die," he said. Claire closed her eyes. Marianne could not speak for a moment. The words were too large in his small, tired voice. Too direct. Children could do that when adults had spent weeks building detours. "I know," Marianne said. "But I don't like going to your house anymore." Claire opened her eyes. Marianne's breath caught in a place she could not hide. Evan looked frightened by his own sentence. "I mean, I like your house. I like the cards and the old shows and stuff. He looked off screen, then back. "I feel like everything is a test." No one spoke. The refrigerator clicked off. The silence after it was complete. Evan rushed to fill it. "Like if I'm too loud, or if I make you laugh, or if I ask for snacks, I don't know. It's weird." Claire's mouth tightened. Marianne looked at the dark phone screen border around his face. She wanted to correct him. Not everything, not snacks, not always. She wanted to tell him he had misunderstood, that adults had complicated health things, that sometimes love looked careful. But he was 10. He was telling her how the room felt. Not a medical report, not an accusation, just the shape of her house from where he stood inside it. "I didn't know it felt like that," Marianne said. That was not fully true, not fully false. Evan nodded again. He looked suddenly embarrassed. "Sorry." "No," Claire said quickly, "but you don't need to be sorry." Marianne said, "No, you don't." Evan rubbed his eye again. "Can I go to bed?" "Yeah," Claire said softly. "I'll be home soon." "Are you sleeping there?" Claire looked at Marianne. "I don't know yet." Evan's face tightened. Marianne saw it. The question was not about logistics. It was about whether tonight would become another thing he had caused. "She's coming home," Marianne said. Claire's eyes moved to her. Evan looked between them through the screen. "Are you sure?" "Yes," Marianne said. Claire did not correct her. "Okay," Evan said. "I'll see you soon," Claire told him. "Okay, bye, Grandma." "Good night, sweetheart." The call ended. The kitchen felt different without his face in it. Bigger and more unforgiving. Claire placed the phone on the table. "You didn't have to say that," she said. "That you were going home?" "Yes, you are." "Mom, you are." The old fight rose at the edge of the table, ready to return. Marianne felt it. Claire felt it too. Both of them could have stepped into it easily. Orders, refusals, safety, responsibility, proof. Marianne placed both hands on the table. "Not yet," she said. Claire stared at her. "I don't mean never." Marianne hated how careful she sounded. Hated needing to arrange the words so Claire would not grab the wrong one. "I mean not tonight. Not like this. You were on the floor an hour ago." "I know. You didn't eat." "I know. You hid notes in a drawer." Marianne looked at the notebook. "I know." That one made Claire go quiet. Maybe because Marianne had not argued. Maybe because they both understood how rare that was. Marianne stood slowly. Claire moved as if to help, then stopped herself so abruptly that Marianne almost smiled. Almost. "I want to show you something," Marianne said. Claire followed her into the small front room. The lamps were still off. Marianne turned one on. Warm light spread across the couch, the side table, the basket of old magazines she kept meaning to sort. On the lower shelf of the bookcase, beneath a stack of crossword books, was the green school folder Claire had brought by 3 days ago and forgotten on the entry table when she left. Or maybe she had not forgotten it. Maybe Marianne had taken the paper and placed the folder there and told herself she would return it. She pulled out a folded sheet. Claire recognized it before Marianne opened it. Her face changed. "Mom, I saw it at your house." "I know. I didn't mean to." Claire looked down. "I figured." Marianne smoothed the paper carefully, Evan's handwriting sat there in the lamplight. Someone I miss. I miss my grandma before she got scared. There was more below it. Marianne had not let herself read past the first line at Claire's house. Later, alone, she had read the rest, once, then again, then folded it and put it away as if paper could become less true in the dark. She held it out to Claire. Claire did not take it. "You read all of it?" Claire asked. "Yes." Claire looked toward the kitchen, then back. "I didn't know how to bring it up." "No, I wasn't hiding it to be cruel." "I know." Claire's eyes went wet again, and this time she seemed too tired to stop them completely. Marianne looked at the paper. "Tell him I miss her too," she said. Claire made a sound, small and hurt. Marianne wished immediately that she had said it differently. Less bare. Less like something that could be put in a book. But it had come out the only way it could. She folded the paper along its old crease. "I don't know how to be her right now," Marianne said. Claire wiped under one eye. "You don't have to be exactly her." Marianne gave a faint, dry laugh. "Good, I don't think she's available." Claire almost laughed too. It broke before it became one. They stood in the front room with the lamp on, surrounded by objects that had survived all of them. Walter's books, Evan's orange bowl, Claire's school photo, the old couch. Marianne carried the paper back to the kitchen and set it beside the notebook. Then she opened the drawer beneath the placemats and took out the folded sheets. Heart rate, sodium, sleep, incidents. The papers felt lighter than they should have, considering how much trouble they had caused. Claire watched but did not speak. Marianne put the sheets on the table. "I'm not throwing them away tonight," she said. Claire nodded once. "Okay. I may put some back." "Okay. Not all of them." "Okay. You're saying okay too much." Claire let out a breath through her nose. "I'm trying not to mess this up." That was honest enough to stay in the room. Marianne sat down again. "I will eat something before bed," she said. "Not just broth?" "Not just broth." Claire pressed her lips together, holding back whatever came next. Marianne looked at her. "What?" "Nothing. Say it." "I was going to ask what." "Don't." Claire nodded. Then Marianne surprised herself. Chicken, toast, maybe a banana. Claire's shoulders eased by the smallest amount. "Okay. But you are not checking the refrigerator." "I won't." "You are not coming in because I don't answer one call." Claire's expression tightened. Marianne lifted a hand. "If I miss one call." Claire thought about it. "2, 1. 2, Mom." Marianne looked at her daughter. Claire looked back. There it was. Not a command this time. A negotiation. "1 call and 1 text," Marianne said. "If I don't answer either within 30 minutes, you can worry. I'm going to worry before 30 minutes. You can worry in your own house." Claire almost smiled. It hurt both of them, but it was there. "And the garage code?" Claire asked. Marianne looked toward the laundry room door. The new code sat in her mind, private and clean. 4 numbers that proved she could still decide who entered. 4 numbers that had also kept Claire outside while she imagined her mother on the floor. Marianne stood and went to the small bowl near the microwave, where she kept spare keys, rubber bands, and old loyalty cards she never used. At the bottom was a keyring with 1 silver garage key and a paper tag from the hardware store. She picked it up. Claire watched her cross the kitchen. "This is for emergencies," Marianne said. Claire did not reach immediately. Marianne held it out farther. "Not for checking my trash, not for looking in drawers, not for counting food." "I didn't count food." "You looked." Claire accepted that with a small nod. "Okay." "Not for deciding my house is too quiet." Claire's hand stayed open. Marianne placed the key in it. It was such a small object. Too small for the weight both of them gave it. Claire closed her fingers around it, then opened them again as if gripping it too tightly might prove Marianne right. "Emergency only," Claire said. "And if you use it, you tell me. If I can. If I'm unconscious, you may skip the courtesy." Claire laughed then. Not fully, not cleanly. It came out with a breath and a tear and a little disbelief. Marianne felt the sound move through the kitchen and stop before it became relief. Good. Relief would be premature. Claire put the key on her own keyring. The click of metal joining metal sounded final in a way Marianne had not expected. For a while, they sat at the table, not comfortably, not as if everything had settled. The notebook was still there. Evan's paper was still there. The broth jar still needed to be put away. Marianne's hip still ached. But Claire did not say she was staying. And Marianne did not tell her to leave. 18, Claire stood. "I should get back to Evan." "Yes. Will you text me after you eat?" Marianne looked at her. Claire held up one hand. "Just tonight. Just tonight." Another phrase that could become a door, depending on who held it. Marianne nodded. "Just tonight?" Claire picked up her purse, then stopped at the kitchen doorway. "Mom." Marianne braced herself. Claire seemed to reconsider whatever she had been about to say. "Lock the door after me." "That I can manage?" Claire nodded. At the front door, she turned back once. "Call me if you feel dizzy again." Marianne did not say "I won't." She said, if I need to. Claire accepted that because there was nothing better available. The door closed. Marianne waited until she heard the car start, then the tires against the driveway, then the low fade as Claire pulled away. The house became quiet again, but not the same quiet. She locked the door. In the kitchen, she put the broth back in the refrigerator. The jar was still cold enough. She wiped the ring of water from the counter. She took a piece of chicken from the container, put it on a plate with one slice of toast, and added half a banana. She ate at the table, not happily, not symbolically. The chicken was dry, the toast scratched lightly at the roof of her mouth. The banana tasted too sweet. She ate most of it anyway. Then she sent Claire a text. 8. Claire responded almost immediately. Thank you. Marianne set the phone face down. The refrigerator hummed, the wall clock ticked, the house held. She stood and carried the plate to the sink. When she opened the refrigerator again, she saw the small plastic container on the lower shelf, pushed behind the blueberries. She had noticed it earlier and pretended not to. Claire must have put it there when Marianne was in the front room, or maybe she had brought it without saying. A square of birthday cake sat inside, white frosting pressed against the lid, a blue line along one edge. Marianne took it out. On top of the container, Claire had stuck a small label from a roll of freezer tape. Evan wanted you to have this. No calorie count. No note from Claire. No instruction. Marianne carried it to the table and sat. She looked at the cake through the clear plastic. The frosting had smudged on one side. The yellow cake was slightly dry at the edge, the way store-bought cake got after a few days. She turned the container over and found the bakery label. Calories, sugar, sodium. Her eyes went to the numbers before she could stop them. Then she turned the container label side down. For a moment, she only sat there. The house waited in its ordinary way. Marianne opened the drawer beneath the placemats and took out the notebook. She placed it on the table, closed. Then she reached for a fork. The lid made a small popping sound when she opened the container. Sweetness rose from it immediately. Cheap vanilla and sugar, and the faint refrigerator taste of plastic. She cut off a corner no larger than a postage stamp. Too small, she thought. Then, irritated with herself, she cut a little more. She put the bite in her mouth. The frosting was too sweet. The cake was a little stale. Her body did not know what to do with the sudden sugar except receive it. Marianne sat still, fork in hand. Nothing happened. Or rather, many things happened, but none of them were the things she had feared. The clock moved. The refrigerator hummed. A car passed somewhere outside. On the table, the closed notebook stayed closed. Marianne took one more small bite. Then she picked up her phone and opened Claire's message thread. For a long time, she did not type. Finally, she wrote, "Tell Evan thank you for the cake." She read it twice. Then she sent it before she could add anything safer.